Good morning. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order for January the 8th. And this time I'd like to call the roll call, and I'd just like to share that Supervisor Parks is in Thousand Oaks. There's a major accident in 101, and she cannot get through, so she's going to be late this morning. So, roll call.
Supervisor Bennett?
Here.
Supervisor Parks? Supervisor Long? Here. Supervisor Foy?
Here.
And Supervisor Zaragoza?
Here. At this time, I'd like to call up Bishop Huggins from St. Paul's Baptist Church. That's going to help us with a moment of inspiration and also lead us in the pledge. Bishop? And thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for the invitation. We'd like to say to you congratulations on a very successful tenure as chair of the board. But also I'd like to thank you for being such an exemplary representative of our district. You've been responsible, responsive, and respectful to the needs, concerning the needs of our community, and we appreciate you being there for us.
Thank you.
Thank you I want to thank the Board of Supervisors in the county as well. Melanie Roy, who works with us in the mental health, behavioral health ministries of our church, and you've provided so much assistance, which has been very valuable to our community in light of what we've experienced. We've all been challenged and hurt and so devastated by what happened in Connecticut, as well as what has transpired in New Jersey. And I think that as we move into the new year, we must become not only introspective but retrospective and projective in terms of our challenges as public servants. The Bible says, "He that is greatest among you, we are to be servants of all." And being servants, we have to make sure that not only are we to be fiscally accountable, but socially responsible. Those types of shootings could happen in our neighborhoods, and we've done all that we've been able to do to mitigate that and to make sure that our young people are loved and accepted and appreciated and affirmed so that our communities can be safe. And so on this first meeting of the year, just challenge you to continue to be sensitive to the community and know that we're all responsible for those that cannot help themselves and those that are considered to be the last, the lowest, the least, the lost, and the left out. So in light of that, before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, can we all just recite the Lord's Prayer together? Because I feel this, that no matter how politically astute we are, no matter how politically powerful we are, how much money we have, none of us can control the spirit of evil in this world. And I think that when we acknowledge God as we move forward in this year, that He will certainly do what He has promised to do to protect us and to embrace us and to protect us. So let's recite the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop.
Stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. And we do, all of us have concerns of our children and our families here in the United States, and especially the folks back in Connecticut. Thank you for sharing with us this morning. Okay, our next item is the ceremonial swearing in by our Honorable Presiding Judge, the Superior Court, Judge Beck, and he's going to swear in Supervisor Bennett, Supervisor Kathy Long, and Supervisor John Zaragoza, and I understand that we stand over here for the swearing in.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations. On a Saturday morning, if you come to this chambers, right here, there is a judge who can marry you. They've already said I do. Should we have them kiss each other? No. Okay, no. That's more appropriate. All right, now go back and work.
Thank you, Judge. That was great.
Thank you, Judge Beck. Appreciate that tremendously. And our next item, item 6, is the election of chair and vice chair for the Board of Supervisors. And at this time, what I'd like to do is nominate Peter Foy as chair and Supervisor Bennett as vice chair for the Board of Supervisors. Do I have a second? Is that second? Any other nominations? Oh, I see Supervisor Parks made it.
Hello.
Good. Do we have a second? All in favor? Well, let's take roll call. Go ahead. Got a first and a second. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank
Okay, so that's approved. So we have a new chair. Congratulations. Thank you. Foy, and Vice Chair Steve Bennett. Congratulations. So, you want to take over?
I'll switch.
Okay.
And I'll stay right here.
What's next on?
Yeah, that'd be good. I'll trade you.
You want your beer?
Yeah, that's it. That's yours. There it is. It's good stuff. All right, so they moved me here with next to Mr. Powers to keep me under control. I had one lawyer on one side and another lawyer on this side. But I think the first thing we need to do is say thank you to Supervisor Zaragoza for a tremendous job. You really did a good job. Manage this. Steve, was he able to keep these meetings short and quick? Did he do a good job? He really did. And
Thank you.
it was an honor to serve under you, and I thank you. And I appreciate you all coming out for this ceremony and for the different supervisors, but also for Ms. Zaragoza. You did a tremendous job, and we just want to thank you. So we have a plaque for you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. So now we got a tall order to keep this thing moving quick, huh?
Really?
The bar has been raised, that's right. Boy, okay. So we're going to do board comments first, and then we do want to go into a break and let everybody say congratulations to the newly elected supervisors. So, do you want to start, Supervisor?
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow supervisors. I want to thank you for the confidence and support for allowing me to be the chair this last year. But before I continue, I'd like to thank my wife, Mary Ellen, who's in the audience, and of course also my son Johnny and my daughter-in-law Renee and my grandkids, Jacqueline, Jeanette, and Jacob. They're here to support me this morning, and I really appreciate Mary Ellen sticking this out with me. I've been as a city council member and as a supervisor for many, many years, and she's always supported me, so I want to thank her for being here again to give me her support. Thank you so much. And also, additionally, it always takes a team, to do what we're doing, and I just want to thank my staff. My staff is here today. If my staff is here, please stand up so that they can recognize you. They have done an excellent job. I see Bill and
Hiding in the back.
I see Bill and Lourdes went and
Where's
hid
that new
behind the
manager?
door, but that's okay. But I just want to thank him, for the last 4 years, and especially this last year as chairman. They really did an excellent job in supporting me in our many efforts. Also want to thank our Michael Powers, our CEO, and his staff, and all the agency heads here in the county, and especially Roberta and her staff. Roberta, many times, as I was sitting there, Mr. Chair, she tells me, says, John, cut it. Or it's 3 minutes, or it's 5 minutes.
She is the boss, right?
And she's a boss.
Yeah.
And many times, we buy our own lunch. The county does not buy our own lunch. So she says, Supervisor, you only have enough for half a sandwich. Would you want to eat today? But she's done a good job, and I want to thank her so much. And Leroy, too, for keeping us straight. And, of course, our money person on the other side, she always telling us, hey, do we have enough money, and so forth. And also, again, I want to thank the 8,000 plus employees that we have here in the county. I want to thank them for the work that they do, that they provide for our community. Many times we get chastised by the paper and by many individuals that county employees make a lot of money and we don't. Our employees, there's 86% of our employees, of the 8,000, some employees that retire probably about $30,000 a year by the time they retire. So when you read the paper and you hear about this big monies, it's only a small percentage of those folks that do that. We had a great year. I believe that I'm completing my first term as supervisor and also as chairman of the board. And we had some good accomplishments, I believe, that we achieved. And I'm just going to mention just a few, just in general, because we did a lot of things. We opened up a neighborhood center over 9 acres. The kids were running around with no neighborhood at all. a center for them to participate for after-school programs. So I want to thank the Real School District for helping us out with that. We organized a bilingual health summit, a senior summit, with the help of Hank Lacayo and the senior citizens from the state of California and also the Oxnard College. Very successful senior summit that we had with now Congresswoman Brownlee was there with us. We also assisted the military families. We have a lot of military families here in Ventura County that transfer from one state to the other, and the kids, when they go from one school to the other, they were losing a grade. If they were in the 5th grade, they ended up in the 4th grade and so forth. So the legislation that we help sponsor helped those individuals go from grade to grade to grade, without losing anything. So we also had a senior summit, a green job summit with Senator Pavley in Oxnard on jobs with a private public green job summit. We also converted the septic tanks in El Rio from septic to sewer. That really helped us tremendously and save our Fox Canyon aquifer below us, to save water contamination, and we did it at a very inexpensive project and dollars, and I just want to thank Bacala and Jeff Pratt, for their good job that they did helping us out. And also one of the things that I'm very proud of, and I mention it over and over again, is the paving of Wright Road in El Rio. This is a road that has never been paved. I wish I had some of the PowerPoint that we had. It's an alley that was dirt forever and ever, and the kids would walk in the mud from their homes to school. And we paved that as a private-public partnership with over $500,000 that were provided in labor and materials and so forth from our laborers, our businesses, and it was very, very successful. And there's a lot more pride there, and I want to thank them for the help, and Cloverdale for allowing us to do so. And of course, we also saved McGrath Park. McGrath was really important when we get ready to close McGrath, because of a sewer line and so forth. We stepped up and we provided some dollars. The city of Oxnard, we had private individuals. Assemblymember Doss Williams helped us out to save the park, and it was really, really, really great to save that park, for the whole community, for the whole county. Additionally, we also had another town hall meeting on mortgage fraud. Supervisor Long and I and our DA and also the Board of Realtors helped put this town hall meeting together to educate our residents about mortgage fraud, which was very, very successful, and I think we need to do that again, Supervisor, and I think it was very successful. And also, all of us belong to the VCTC, to the Ventura County Transportation Commission, and currently I'm the chair of that board. And we're financing $2.6 million with the city of Oxnard to improve the Nyland Acres Ventura Boulevard from Santa Cruz to Del Norte. We're going to come up with new asphalt, new drainage, a 7-foot sidewalk, and also some landscaping that's going to make that place really nice and also help the safety of the community. And of course, the other thing too that we did at the VCTC is continued our bus service when we had the regional transit provider file for bankruptcy. So that was really a good project that we did. Again, this is very, very general what I'm talking about. As a board, of course, we saved a lot of, or faced budget deficit and challenges, and we did it without reducing or laying off our employees, without furloughing our employees, and I want to thank Michael and his staff for helping us out with that. We successfully implemented the Public Safety Realignment Program. We opened a fire station. We have some new clinics that we are providing for our residents, and implemented or working on a pension cost reduction with the help of our public employee individuals and units. With new enhanced homeless services, we continue to streamline our development permit process. We successfully redistricted the whole county, and this is really a major effort when we had all the supervisors from the East County all the way to the West County. We divided, the county into 5 districts with probably less than a point, maybe 0.5 or maybe less than a 1% difference. and that was with the entire efforts of all the supervisors that helped us realign the county. And anyway, I think that we had a great year. I'll continue to work on my efforts or my priorities with public safety, continue to make Ventura County the safest county in the United States. I'll continue working with the children and family and seniors, help with job creation and economic development, and also continue to support our military bases here in Ventura County, the Regional Defense Plan of the 21st century. In fact, we had a meeting this morning, and we'll be heading to Washington, D.C. in a couple of months to help bring more work for Ventura County to support our 18,000 jobs that we have and our $2 billion payroll that we have here in Ventura County. So I'm very confident. I'm very confident that we're going to meet our challenges as we progress. We have a good board, and the type of board that I believe it's the type of board that we agree to disagree. And I think that's extremely important. So I think that we have that board that's going to meet those challenges. And again, I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the supervisors for an excellent year as the chair of the board. And thank you so much.
Thank you, and appreciate and thank you for everything that you've done, and there was a lot accomplished last year, so thank you for what you've done. Supervisor Long?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, and thank you all for being here, and welcome to your boardroom. And thank you, Supervisor, Mr. Past Chair, Zaragoza, for a good year. You really tracked our agendas well, you kept them moving, and you have always been very conscientious and respectful of the citizens who come into this room to speak to us, and very honorable in your leadership. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you. As we welcome all of you here, I certainly want to thank family, friends, community, the voters of the 3rd District, the public that really in this county does get engaged with how we run our programs and our systems that serve the public, which are those that really prioritize public safety and health and welfare for the public. Certainly have to thank my husband, Randy Long, who is here, my husband soon to be of 25 years and my soulmate for life, and all of my buds, and my staff. And okay, staff, raise your hand. Raise your hand. I too have great staff. We work very well together. My chief of staff, Martin Hernandez, who also wears another hat now, called Councilman of Santa Paula. So it's a pleasure to be able to have such a great staff. To the county family, the leadership, our CEO, who's done an outstanding job, who continues to work very well in moving the county forward and engaging the public in how we move the county forward, and to his executive management team, who are outstanding, and all of the county employees. It is challenging, always challenging times in local government, and we are still that stepchild to the state, so they will continue to be challenging. Our priority is to keep our house in order, first fiscally and sound for each and every one of the taxpayers in this county remains that top priority. The health and the welfare, I think we are so well positioned with the Affordable Health Care Act in this county to be a leader. I think we already are in the state, and we will do so, I think, as a model in this state and for the Affordable Health Care Act as we move forward to implement that. I think that we have a very strong economy because it's diversified. We're slowly, as we all are, coming out of this recession. But I think, again, we are positioned well. I will be stepping up to chair the Economic Development Collaborative, and certainly its goal and mission is to incentivize the economy, bring jobs, bring businesses, support our businesses who are here. We'll continue to do that work. It's very valuable to all of us. Certainly the military base, our naval base, Ventura County, we're all very proud of it. We have many in this room and many in the county family who are retired military. And the base is a strong economic engine for us, as is our Port of Hueneme. And the value of that port and the good work and leadership that is moving that port forward and positioning it in our state, but certainly in our nation, as a provider of services, goods, and economy for us in this region. I think that what we do in local government is to serve those who are most vulnerable and to be prepared when we're all vulnerable. And we do that through the good work of our law enforcement team, led certainly by Sheriff Jeff Dean and District Attorney Greg Totten, and our probation leadership, Mark Varela, and the work we're undertaking with realignment that's bringing a lot of responsibility to us at the local level. And it does take that team. And I think that we, again, because we remove silos, we work together in partnership, we understand how to get the job done by working together with one another. And speaking of the vulnerable, that we really have a priority and to serve, and we talk about our homeless and those who are in our, we have items on the agenda today to deal with protecting our children. We must keep them a priority, and we have great leadership in the Human Services Agency that really does take those steps, and the employees of HSA who have caseloads and challenges in the public to work with that population. We must continue to keep them a priority and care about each and every one of those households, care about our children. And we are fortunate in this county that we have great community-based organizations who work with us on those challenges, and who come to the table with us when we say we need a task force to do X, Y, and Z. They're willing to step up and do that because we have an engaged citizenry. And I cannot look out here and not acknowledge the League of Women Voters and Sue Kelly and the tremendous conscience that the League brings us when we talk about public policy issues and how to move them forward and how to make sure we strengthen our community and its social fabric and its consciousness and its value to give back to supporting one another. It's been a pleasure to serve the public. I'm honored to be able to serve another 4 years. I feel that we have worked hard and through every one of the board members up here to continue to build the trust that we need to have with the public in order to move the work forward and to be responsible and to be respectful and to work responsibly to, again, achieve the goals that the public wishes to have to keep this great county as wonderful as it is. So I thank you all for being here. We have a great opportunity and responsibility. We work together with our education partners. I see Ramon Flores here from the Community College District, with our education of our youngest to make sure that, a few years from now, the new leadership up here, they're prepared, they're educated, they're caring, they are here to serve the public. So very honored to be here, and thank you all for your trust.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Parks?
Thank you. Well, I do also want to thank Supervisor Zaragoza on a successful year as chair. I remember I was chair and handed the gavel over to you, but just beforehand you were saying, oh, if God willing, I will be chair. You were so excited to be chair, and I know it's a lot of work for your staff, and so I just want to laud your staff too. You don't get extra pay for being chair, but you're in charge of seeing all the moment of inspirations, all the resolutions, the general resolutions. It's a lot of work. So your staff really rose to the occasion.
Are you trying to scare my staff off? Right?
and then also to Supervisor Foy, who now has a strengthened staff. You're ready to go. So I look forward to a year with you as chair. And really, the board has a lot of diverse populations that we serve, but together we work with good teamwork. And I think that's really important because the buck does stop here, and how we work together, I think, is also reflective of how our staff is too. And it's important that we do have the respect that we do have at the board. I also want to congratulate Supervisor Zaragoza and Supervisor Long got reelected without a battle, and that was wonderful for you. And then also to congratulate Supervisor Bennett, who did have that battle. But I think that his reelection really did say a lot for the strength that we have as good land stewards and protection of farmland and open space. And so I'm delighted with his reelection too. And I look forward to your next terms, and we'll enjoy working with you again. So with that, I'll pass comments on to you, Supervisor.
Newly elected supervisor?
Thank you very much. As we get ready to launch 4 more years, Supervisor Zaragoza and Supervisor Long and I, it is a time when it's time to stop and reflect as we move forward. And first, I'd just like to thank Supervisor Zaragoza, a great term chairing the board. We have a unique elected body here, I think. There's a level of respect that allows us to have a dialogue that is good for the citizens. I think over and over again we've seen that. But as I think back to 12 years of being on the board and the next 4 years going forward, I first want to thank the person that probably helps hold things together for our end of the bargain more than anybody else, and that's my wife, Leslie, that's out there. And Leslie, would you put your hand up, please? And then pulling things together for us on all kinds of issues, and we certainly do the broad spectrum of issues, and that's my staff. And so, staff, this is an order. Please stand up so everybody can know who you are. Steve Offerman and Cindy Cantle and Anna Benitez and Brian Brennan do great work and behind the scenes, but constantly keep pushing for good government. We live in a democracy, and you just kind of hear that and you can take it for granted, and I think a lot of people would go, well, what's that mean? It basically means you get to vote. But I think that there's a term that needs to be added to that. We don't live just in a democracy. We live in a participatory democracy. Those that participate have more influence than those that don't. Those that participate have more influence than those that just vote. And I think this past election, there was a renewal of that sort of sense of commitment to participatory democracy at all kinds of levels, at the federal level, at the state level, here at the county level, at the local level. I think that there was a real concern. I think there is still an ongoing concern that the influence of money is going to decrease the influence of participatory democracy. And I am really happy that at least this first cycle after Citizens United was out there was not one that was a runaway for big money. There was way too much big money that was spent. There was way too much hidden money that was out there. We need to keep working on that. And one of the goals that I have is for us to be so proud of the fact that in Ventura County we have the most transparent elections in the country. That in Ventura County, the reputation is if you want to play in Ventura County, you're going to have to reveal who you are, where the money comes from, and you're going to have to do it timely so that the voters know before the election. I think that's just the kind of thing that fits the special participatory democracy that has evolved here in Ventura County. It's not a coincidence that we have SOAR initiatives in Ventura County and they exist almost no place else. It's because citizens participate here and get involved. So after 12 years of being in office, you don't normally see a grassroots organization sort of spring back to life after not being activated for 12 years. And I just want to say, and I see many people out there from a diverse representation of the community, mobile home people, from mobile home parks, people, representative of education and labor and senior citizens and former county employees and all kinds of people came together in a grassroots effort, and I feel really honored to have had the support of all of you. But many dozens of you volunteered to be part of a core volunteer group. You represent all of those people that couldn't be here today, and I just want to say how much I appreciate being part of your effort to live in a county where participatory democracy is really the most important thing that happens. And so thank you very much. As a result of your efforts, I think it lets all of us rededicate ourselves to the real missions that I see here for county government. We have a unique responsibility in county government. We have the broadest mandate of all. The federal government allocates the money, but they don't have to get here and actually get the work done. We have to get the work done that the federal government and the state government government allocates money for us to do. And the buck stops at the county level in so many areas. I think it's very noteworthy that this morning, front page of the Ventura County Star was the information about the poverty level, the child poverty level in Ventura County and in California has just soared in the last 4 years as the recession has gone on. It's something that we intuitively know, but to see the actual statistics, 1 in 5 children in the state of California living in poverty, that's a huge challenge for county government and something that we all have to take seriously. That's a mandate that doesn't exist as much anyplace else. And if that can't motivate you, either as a citizen or as an elected official, I don't know what can. Because to invest in those children, to have those children come out of the disadvantages that their poverty may put them in, and have them be productive members, and have Ventura County be healthy and strong because we do a good job with those children, that's a lasting legacy that we can give to generations after generations here. And so that's the kind of thing that I think we have to rededicate ourselves forward to as we move forward. And it takes me to the next thing that I think is really an important goal. You know, it was mentioned by Supervisor Zaragoza, we have 8,000 employees. 8,000 people with excellent management and leadership can get almost anything done if they really work at it, if they become a peak performing organization, if there's that great sense of teamwork and creativity and working with efficiency, and they can do tremendous things for our county. They can also do something else. They can inspire all of us into saying, hey, local government can do good things. I trust government again. And it is not something that goes unnoticed in my mind, that when we do the polling, that the closer we get to local government, the greater the support is in terms of people having confidence in it as it moves forward. And that is a unique challenge that we have here. And I want to challenge all of us, ourselves, the elected officials, our managers, and the 8,000 people that work here, to try to make sure we earn that trust every day of the public, that we work harder because we work for the taxpayer's dollar and not for private dollars as we move forward. Certainly we have challenges in terms of our pensions reform and our budget that will be an outgrowth of us being a peak performing organization. If we're a peak performing organization, we'll solve those challenges. We'll do the things and make the hard decisions that we have to make to go forward. We'll write good campaign finance reform and make ourselves even more transparent as a county as we go forward. We will build a great hospital over the next 4 years as we will tackle the challenging problems of water here in Ventura County and start the hard dialogue that is difficult to have in terms of trying to make sure that we're preparing ourselves for the future. We will get to things like SOAR renewed so that people have confidence for many generations going forward, that we won't succumb to the urban sprawl that has plagued much of Southern California. But most importantly, we will, on a day-to-day basis, make a difference in the lives of the most vulnerable people in our county who are most dependent upon county government: the foster children, the seniors in those nursing homes, the single mother who is dealing with a mentally ill child and has no resources and no place to turn. We'll make a difference day in and day out, and we'll never know, and we won't be able to measure that if we really get after it again like we have been doing here in Ventura County in the past. So an election like we've gone through is a time to sort of reevaluate and rededicate, and that's where I am, and I really want to thank all of you for helping to make that possible as we move forward. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Bennett. Again, congratulations. And Mr. Powers, you have a few comments before I make some?
Yes. Emphasis on a few. But just I did want to say congratulate the entire board, really, for your connection with the community. We see it every day. We see it here in the boardroom today, and your support for priority services and safety, social, and health. And did I get the order right, Sheriff? I also want to thank you for your support of the county family, those 8,000 employees. I know they appreciate your leadership and your support and their relationship with you, and you really give them pride in working for the county of Ventura. So I know that means an awful lot to them. We've had a great year with the chair. Looking forward to another great year. You've sustained services, but you've done more than that. You've invested in the future, in our people, our technology, and our facilities. And I think you really positioned us to have a great year. We're going to have a great year. I know it. Supervisor Foy told me we were, so there it is. And so I look forward to a great year with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your leadership. I just want to congratulate the supervisors. You run hard. Sometimes you don't have to run quite as hard, but you know what? You still put your life out there in front of everybody, and you still have to do this. And as the spouses know, it's not always easy that you deal with this. And so I just thank you. You know, there's only less than 300 supervisors in the largest state here in the nation, and so there's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of the people that do this work. And as Supervisor Bennett elegantly described, there's a lot of responsibility out there, and it's something that is not taken lightly up here. And I appreciate the work that they do, and I appreciate the people who came. I appreciate Judge Bach coming, and we have Councilman Jackie Irwin, we have Brian Bach, we have a new Councilman Martine right here with us too, and even our sheriff and our former CEO is here with her husband. And I just appreciate you all willing to come out and say congratulations and thank you to everyone, and that's important. Now, there's a lot of things that I think that, as has been explained, that were done last year and the last couple of years, and one of the biggest things I thought was besides some of the things that were articulated, was that this family that you talk about, Supervisor and Supervisor Bennett, is worked really, really hard to ensure that we continue to provide the services that we did. As you saw, most counties, a lot of cities, states laid a lot of people off in the last couple of years during this recession. And as a matter of fact, somebody said to me, well, during recession, you guys be laying a whole bunch of people off. And, well, one of the things were, I think the years prior to that, they took some real financial responsibility and did not overextend themselves to have to get into those situations. But on the other side, we saw a tremendous group of this 8,000 people come together to find ways to save money and still provide services. And I thought that was key. And we have about a $10 million savings ongoing. If we took that like the federal government says, that's $100 million over the next 10 years, you know. But, I mean, that's a tremendous amount of money. And what that allowed us to do was to keep the people employed to still provide the services. Because the people that were employed before were providing services. We just didn't hire a whole bunch of extra people. Right, Marty? No, they were there to provide services. And then in the new CEO, the same thing. We're not going to just spend money. As was said, this tax dollar has to be protected. And we've got a lot of things that we need to do. And it's going to get tighter and tighter. And so I challenge this group of hardworking people to find us another $10 million over this this next year that we can on go. So we can keep people employed and we can keep the services that need to be provided to the public. And so I just appreciate all that hard work that went into it, because it's not easy. Let me tell you, right, Mr. CEO, was it tough? But you know what? They were responsive, weren't they? Yeah, it's always hard to go and say, I need 5 points here, and I need to cut here, and I need this. But you know what? At the end of the day, I look at it from the standpoint, I don't want to hire extra people and have to lay them off and destroy people's lives. That does. We all have friends that have been laid off and everything else. But if we can try to manage and find more effective, efficient ways to do what we do, save money, we can do that. And at the end of the day, we're only here to serve that other almost million people out there. That's what we're here to do. That's it. We're not here to serve ourselves. I mean, there is a job and everything else, but that's what we're here to do. And I think it's important that we protect the people that pay our salaries and at the same time depend on us to be there when we need to. So we got a lot of things going forward. We do have pension reform, as we talked about. We're making great headways, and I know that all the different departments are here, and they're going to work hard, and hopefully the unions will come together, and we'll find a way to solve some of the issues. Because at the end of the day, if that all sucks all that money up, we still have that responsibility. Where does that money come from? So we've got to work through that and still give people reasonable security in their lives. And I think that's going to be important. So as we go forward, I look forward to the challenge. A few of my staff members here, Brian and Chad, are out there and say, it's going to be tough, guys. That's what they tell you. So hang in there. But these are great people I worked with, and I look forward to it. It's always great to work with this group of supervisors. One of the things I got to tell you, we don't all agree. And you know that with me, right? We don't always agree. But we do agree to disagree and to get along. This is not a board that screams and yells at each other. Because it respects you as the employee, you as the citizens, that we will get along, and we'll try to make it work together. And so I appreciate these people. Thank you for the chairmanship, and look forward to serving you, and we'll try to get through these meetings quick, effectively, and efficiently, because I know the bosses down here are going to make that happen. All right, so thank you. We're going to take a 20-minute break so you can say congratulations to the newly elected supervisors. Thank you. Okay, we'll come back into session. And what do we have up first? The minutes. All right, so we have the... Yeah, I am. I'm trying to see the minutes, but it doesn't say, oh, here it is, of December 4th. There it is. That's what I said. Minutes of December 4th. Motion to approve. We got a second? I'll put a second in there. We can vote. Oh. You talking to me?
No.
Oh. You talking to me?
Did it? Okay.
Okay, we good? All right, so that's been approved, and then we'll go to our agenda review. CEO?
Thank you, Chair Foy. Just a couple items. There's
how you say
consent agenda, item 24, there's revised Exhibit 1.
24. Okay.
There's an addendum agenda, consent agenda, item 40, County Clerk and Recorder, approval of Oxnard Harbor District Commissioner's bonds.
So that's added to the consent?
That's added to consent, exactly. And then lastly, there's another addendum agenda item, regular agenda, item 41, recommendation of Supervisors Bennett and Long to adopt a resolution calling for enactment of a federal ban on assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition magazines. And that's it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else on that? No? Okay. Then we will approve the agenda review. Okay, there you go. Okay, that's been approved. So now we'll go to our consent items, which will be 14 through 26, and including 40, right?
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to ask to pull 20 just for a brief presentation from Cheryl Moore, the Executive Director of the WIB Board, on the report that's been submitted under consent.
Would you like to hear that first?
We can move the consent and then
Okay.
come up.
Why don't we move to the consent, and then we'll have her come up right after. We have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
there we go. Coming up? What's that? Plug it in? What does that mean? They have to...
Who'd
Did
be
you make
there?
a motion?
Yes,
Oh,
I meant to.
that's me.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry.
That's okay.
Rusty.
And who did the second? There we go.
Okay,
Thanks, Steve.
Sorry, Roberta.
okay. Supervisor Bennett.
Yay. Okay. That's proved, okay. This is on item number 1.
Item 20, yes.
20.
Mr. Chair again asked Ms. Moore to come up to just talk briefly to this. I think, one, it's good for the public record to talk, acknowledge the work of the WIB Board. I know they come in and give us their annual report, but this is submitted now to the funders, the federal folks, and one, I thought it had some excellent highlights in it of the good work that the WIB Board is doing, which is a citizen board that works for all of us. So,
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity. The Workforce Investment Board does report to your board every June about the activities in which they are engaged for that past year. The report that's before you now is the summary of 2011-12 that you had a preview of back in June of 2012. What we do is we wait until the final data is received and confirmed by the state of California for the different performance measures that are required of us. And sometimes those numbers change a bit. So this is officially reporting now the final numbers. The report that's going to you is consistent with what was presented back in June and does represent some amazing work by some terrific volunteers in this community.
Okay, any other comments on that, Supervisor?
I appreciate that the WIB Board has, over the last couple of years, really stepped up to focus on the youth component and the opportunities for both training and hiring opportunities for youth. I think that that was one of the areas that we had targeted, and that again, the representation on that board includes the diversity of the industry we have in this county. So it's valuable for us to continue to hear from the WIB board and to make sure that the representatives there hear that our support for their work and for the use of those funds. So that's
That
it.
board is there to help expend federal funds that benefit employers, job seekers, and youth throughout Ventura County, and they're very, very committed to doing so. They're also working very closely with business and industry on demand-driven priorities in this area. We're looking at industry sectors, and we're looking at ways to help support and drive the economy.
Well, that's what we need, so thank you very much for the
Thank you.
time. Yes?
I just wanted to compliment you, too, for being the glue that kind of holds it all together, and so good job in your coordination.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Just on the performance measures, I'm not sure she mentioned it, but they exceeded all 9, met and exceeded all 9 state-required performance
Right.
measures.
Right?
Did you expect anything less?
Of course not.
Very good work.
And tell your board thank you for the hard work.
We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion
Thank
to
you.
receive and file.
Second. Bennett's got it.
Okay. So we're going to, have been approved. We're going to go to our public comments, and we have, how many do we have? Five. We're going to keep these to 3 minutes. We've kind of had a long meeting so far. So our first person is Lucas Thayer.
Good morning. Happy New Year. I like agenda item number 41. I watched you people take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and so I'd like to clarify that I'd like your resolution to specify that you want a constitutional amendment banning federal assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition. Therefore, the folks that are defending the Second Amendment can amend it to clarify that. And I think also that should apply for law enforcement and military, because I don't want this nation to be a do as I say, not as I do sort of nation. So law enforcement and military should also not use assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition, because obviously law enforcement has a problem with shooting the innocent. Alfonso Limon, we don't know the names of the officers that shot him yet. I'd like the officers' names to appear on the news very soon. And also regarding the Constitution, recently the President signed the National Defense Authorization Act, and that's unconstitutional. And so regarding your oath to uphold the Constitution, I'd like the county to pass a resolution against the indefinite detention clause in the National Defense Authorization Act, which allows for the indefinite detention of U.S. citizens and foreign nationals without trial or cause, and perhaps even the assassination of these people with no trial. And the Constitution was not upheld when Robert Ramirez and Alfonso Limon were killed. They had Fourth Amendment rights to stand trial for their alleged crimes, and they did not. And so that's an issue. I understand that, thank you for your information, Mr. Bennett. The last time around that you told me the district attorney is separately elected and therefore not governed by you folks. I appreciate that. So you don't have any control over whether or not the district attorney files charges against the 7 officers that beat Robert Ramirez to death. But you do have control over preventing a tragedy like that from happening again in the future. I would like for the video surveillance of all law enforcement interactions with people during which a person is killed at the scene to be released to the public immediately for public scrutiny and for independent investigation to determine whether or not the officers were at fault for the unfortunate deaths. And as I mentioned before, cameras are really small now, so you can have one in the badge of any officer as soon as they get out of their car, and it can be rolling. And that can go to a database which can get stored, and if nothing bad happens, we can even throw away the information. But if something bad happens, we can go and get that information and see what really did happen when these law enforcement officers interact with the public, because we're paying them, and we're not paying them to kill people. And Alfonso Limon was not involved in the crime that the officers were apprehending at the time of his death. Robert Ramirez was not guilty of any crime. There was recently a law passed in California stating that if someone's under the influence of drugs and they're seeking medical attention, then they're not under any penalty of crime because they're seeking medical attention. So I'd like the rights of these people to be respected. These people were murdered by law enforcement agencies in this city.
Thank you for your time. We have Rachel Flores.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Congratulations, Supervisor Foy, as Chair for 2013. Look forward to working with you and supervisors, all of you. I represent members from SEIU 721. We are the majority of workers for the county of Ventura. And very proud to represent the workers that I represent. Workers like Art Mora and Bobby Castaneda, who work in the streets every day, do back-breaking work, but who are so committed and dedicated and enjoy their jobs. They're loyal to the county. They're good stewards of the union. I'm honored to represent workers like Eva in housekeeping, who drives a long way to work every day, doesn't make a lot of money, is grateful because she has benefits. Benefits that, with her labor organization in the county, we've been able to secure and maintain. But oftentimes when costs go up, it's hard. As you know, our workers haven't had any increases in 5 years. They're contributing more to their retirement plans. And in 2013, we look forward to finding ways to close those gaps. Supervisor Foy, you mentioned how, yes, we do need to come together and look for revenue. I would like to report that I am consistently bringing revenue-generating ideas to the folks who work for you. Some of these ideas have been looked at. And I just want to let you know that SEIU 721, we are about maintaining services, ensuring that we're providing quality services. I have some workers here today who you'll hear from. All that together, though, doesn't happen without a true partnership. And I'm very pleased to say, to let you know that we do have a good partnership here in the County of Ventura with the CEO's office, with many, many departments. And in departments where we don't have a relationship, I'm reaching out to those folks because I believe that we cannot do anything on our own, that we need each other. And this is a great county. I enjoy living here. Again, I'm honored to be the regional director. Today's headlines are further evidence of the work that we need to do together. I won't read any excerpts from it. I'm sure you've read it. Children die every day from hunger. But we have an opportunity before us to close that gap, to change that. I look forward to us being the model in the state of California, if not in the country, on labor relations with management and improving, maintaining, and all the great things that we want to do together. I thank you for your time. God bless you. God help us this year, 2013. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we do appreciate the very hard work and dedicated work that SEIU does do here, and working together to make those savings that they all come together to make that happen. And as this responsibility of this board to continue to find ways to ensure that those people continue to have their jobs and work hard. So we thank you for that too. Appreciate your positive attitude. Now our next would be Saul Medina.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Saul Medina. I am a behavioral health clinician with Behavioral Health, and I've been employed by the county for over 11 years. I'm here today because I was elected to be part of the bargaining team. And I was not only just elected by my peers, but I was also selected as a chair of the bargaining team, which I'm very proud to do. I had served previously in 2007, 2009 as a co-chair, and that's the last time that county employees received a raise. During my co-chair in 2007, 2009, we were able to achieve a 7% raise overall. And that's the first time that's been done with the county. Times have changed. During the time from 2009 to 2012, county's employees have put in their part to make sure that we have a balanced budget and we're paying our fair share. Like when we gave up 3% in order to balance the budget and reduce possibility of layoffs, which we didn't do. We working together. I believe this is a partnership in between the taxpayers and public service and employees. And when we're talking about total compensation, we're not just talking about wages. We're also talking the ability for health care. Currently, employees' health care has gone up $40 per pay period. So we're going to look to see if there's ways that we can cover that flex benefit in order to get the best coverage that we can possibly get. I'm also looking forward to maybe county employees participating in the California Exchange Healthcare that's coming up in 2014. Hopefully, we can work something together to make sure that we are getting our money's worth and our taxpayers are getting their money's worth as well. I also believe that the pension reform is not just the responsibility of SEIU members, but also for the people that also have pensions that are in management positions. So when we're talking about pension reform, I hope that everybody is included, not just certain unions or representative. I would hope that this board would take that in consideration and lead by example by considering ways to save money on the top end that's costing the county and the taxpayers a significant amount of burden. So this is a partnership, and I hope that we can all get together and negotiate. And we will negotiate it in fair practice in private. We will try to avoid having any kind of public display or newspaper memos in and out. But I thank you for your time and consideration and look forward to working hard to get the solutions that we need together. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Medina. I appreciate the comments, and I got to say that one of the advantages that we have in this county for our employees is we have our own health care plan, which is so much less expensive than others. If we were in a different county, the employees, besides that $40, would be an awful lot more. But I appreciate you willing to say you want to work and work hard, because together, this, I think, is everybody's issue. Pension reform will affect management, labor, everybody together. Mr. Powers, you have a comment on that?
Just appreciate the comment on the plan. It is a good price and it's good quality too. Just I reflect that, but I also want to say that we do very much value our partnership with SEIU. It's been long-standing and very productive, and the sacrifices that you've made and the work that you do and all of your members do. Thank you.
I'd also just want to say thank you. Going into negotiations is always difficult, and saying, we don't want to make this into a political football. I think I really appreciate that, because we all want to make sure that we can get to a good point where we can all say yes at the end. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to thank Medina and also Rachel. We do want to work with our employees. That's why I mentioned initially in my presentation that we have 8,000 plus employees here in the county, and they're all good employees, and we do want to work together. So I think it's important that we do that. So thank you to Rachel and also to Saul.
No question about it, and that's why Mr. Powers and his staff have been very open about where the finances are of the county. There's no hidden things. They're going to be always open. So we're in this together. We understand there haven't been raises in a lot of years. We understand that. We understand the public has that too. We're trying to do everything we can to ensure that people have a quality of life. So I think it's important. Okay, Ms. Salinas, next.
Good morning. My name is Lydia Salinas. I am a child welfare social worker for Children and Family Services. I've worked for the agency for nearly 9 years now. And I just have to say, I really, really appreciate sitting down here and hearing your care and commitment to the community, especially as we social workers have really, really seen the outcome of the downfall in the economy, and we're working hard right now to keep the best practices going and keep our children safe and protected. I'm also currently serving on the SEIU bargaining team, and I'm looking forward to negotiating a fair contract for the 4,800 SEIU members that serve this county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Laura Espinoza?
Actually, it was item 38. If you want me to come back, I can do that too.
I don't know if there's anybody else who wanted to speak. Public comments? Okay, then we will move on.
As you move on, I just would like to ask the board to adjourn in memory of the
That's what
people
I
on
was
this
going to do.
list.
We'll just start that, finish up whatever comments you
Thank
might
you.
have had. Any other comments you'd like to make, Supervisor?
I'd like to call out Harry Bodell, born in 1923, and it was 10 years he managed the Ojai Basin Groundwater Agency. And he was a World War II Navy vet, and sorry that we lost him in Ojai.
Yeah. Supervisor Parks, would you like to?
I also would ask that we close in honor of the people on this list, and I do want to call out a couple of them. Grant Gerson, just a wonderful man who started Calamigas Ranch and camp for children, and just a wonderful cowboy equestrian that will be very much missed by his wife, Ruth. Jerry Vernig, also from the Santa Rosa Valley. We lost him, and he also is just such a huge member of that community, really embraced the people there and the equestrian lifestyle. And I know his wife, Shar, is very missing of him, as we all are. And then also just mentioning, we have a gentleman, Frank Joseph Murphy, and he passed away, a resident of Newbury Park for over 35 years. And also, I know we have a former Ventura City police officer who also passed away. Excuse me one second. I'll come back to him on our next meeting, because I don't have his name, but I do want to pay our respects to him. And then I also wanted to point out that Dr. Michael Golub, who serves on our first five, just retired after 42 years as being a pediatrician in the Cananeo Valley area. Just a wonderful man who's really left a legacy. And then also Medea Creek Middle School was recognized as California State's School to Watch, taking center stage, and I think one of two in Ventura County, and the other one I believe was also in Ventura. And I guess I'll leave it at that, and welcome back everyone after the nice break.
Thank you. Supervisor Long?
Yes, thank you. I do too. List to adjourn in memory. First, a Camarillo resident, Michael Lavenant, past chamber chair, board of directors, Camarillo Ranch Foundation, Casa Pacifica. Michael was Mr. Camarillo in many ways, a up-and-coming young man who passed away unexpectedly. Truly just a good, giving man, and is missed by the entire community. Joan Harris Nordman, Board of Directors, Ojai Valley School District, member of the Assistance League, Las Patronas, Livingston Memorial, Hospice, New West, everything, United Way, Ventura County Museum, Camarillo resident. And lastly, to call out Donald Smith, Camarillo, served in the United States Army during the Korea War, was a firefighter most of his adult life, worked in both Santa Barbara, Goleta, active with the Alicia and Rush Byrne Foundation, and he received the first Medal of Valor given in the Santa Barbara County for his rescue of the Lafitte children in 1976. And again, very known and loved. And just to mention, and I'll try mention again next week, it's that time of year for our homeless persons count. And it will take place on Tuesday, January 29th. And we are looking for folks who have time to give a couple hours in the morning. It's all very organized and directed and to help us to do a real street count of the homeless in our community. The importance of this is both for the federal funding that we reach out for to support the programs and services we offer, and to really understand who's out there in the population, what their needs are, and how best can we serve them. So if you have time and interest, you can certainly contact volunteerventuracounty.org to sign up to work in teams and to help us with the homeless count. And again, that's Tuesday morning, January 29th. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to adjourn in memory of the folks on the list that I misplaced here, so I'll get you another list, Roberta. But I want to call out...
They will be on this list.
I want to call out Stefan Scott Cianovich. You know, he's was the grandson of Lou Cianovich, our coach over at Santa Clara,
Yeah.
that passed away. He was a very young man, and I went over to his services, and it was very emotional. But I just want to adjourn and give a special attention to Scott Cianovich, for his dad, and also to Coach Lou Cianovich. And again, I will give you that list. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor?
I'm sorry, I did find the individual, Patrick Taylor Stevens, who was a 30-year career police officer with the Ventura Police Department. He passed away. I know his wife, Sherry, and their family, as well as all those who knew him, will miss him too. So I want to close and honor him also.
Wonderful. Then I'll close on the people on this list. And say everybody welcome. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday and it was meaningful to you. A lot went on during that time, but there's also a couple good things that happened. I wanted just to congratulate Billy Gillibrand. I don't know if everybody knows Billy Gillibrand, about this tall, and probably, one of those fire plug, yeah, just dynamite women. Anyway, it's always great to hear things about people, before they pass. But Billy's got the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Chamber of Commerce. But this is a woman who's been involved in everything. Simi Valley, Moore Park, she lives in Simi Valley. She's a big supporter of the Boys and Girls Club, the Free Clinic, the Red Cross, the Boy Scouts. I mean, she's just one of those role models. And so it was just great to have someone like that be recognized. And anyway, so congratulations to her. And then also a school to watch, a Sinaloa Middle School. You have yours. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's great. Good things going on in our county. So I'm just excited to be part of that. So we will move on, because we said we'll be here at 10 o'clock time certain, and I know the supervisor here is going to say, what's wrong with you? You're 15 minutes late. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So we have a presentation for David Eaton. Supervisor.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Zerko. Supervisor. Thank you very much, Supervisor Floyd.
He's trying to catch up.
Yeah, there we go. It is a pleasure. And is Mr. Eaton here? Great, yeah. Would you come on down to the front, please? There we go. Would you come down to the front, please, Mr. Eaton?
Steve, remember my request. Keep it brief and don't make me cry.
All right. We'll make it honorable. How about that? And we'll let you decide whether to cry. Because this is a special presentation, and we have lots of people that serve on all of our boards and commissions. When I arrived here in this office 12 years ago, Mr. Eaton was serving on the Assessment Appeals Board, and he has served as our hearing officer. And it is a challenging position to have, to be somebody that everybody respects as really giving you a fair and neutral hearing, not biased towards the county and not biased against the county as those assessment appeals move forward. And you have handled this position with so much class and integrity, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to replace you. And it is one of those quiet things, so much of county government is off the radar screen. This is one of those quiet things that's off the radar screen. But it sets the tone. How those assessment appeal hearings go sets the tone for all kinds of other assessments that get set. And I think what all of us want is we want fair assessments. We've seen some tragedies in some other counties where people work the system and all of that. And I think if we can, same thing, have confidence here. And so, Dave, you've done a great job of building that confidence, piece by piece, case by case, as it goes forward. So I'm going to quickly read a few things about this at this point in time in Dave's life. Dave's a native of New Jersey, fifth of six kids, and he went to Chicago, Hermosa Beach, and Minneapolis. Finally arrived in Ventura in 1942. He attended Ventura schools. Now and then finally gave up trying while in the 11th grade and went off to war. All right. During World War II. He served in the Merchant Marines in the Army, then various jobs until he hired as an apprentice electrician, became a partner 10 years later. While in business, he became interested in local politics, participating in the Chamber of Commerce, chairing the Government Affairs Committee. He was elected to the Ventura City Council in '67, served 2 terms, selected as mayor the last 2 years. 77, David was elected to the Board of Supervisors, where he served from 77 to 81, including 1 year as chair. During his tenure on the board, he served on the SCAG Executive Committee, was a founding director of SCAT, vice chair of the Regional Sanitation Board, and served on the Regional Coastal Commission. In 93, David became an alternate member of the Assessment Appeals Board number 2. He was appointed alternate member to board number 1 in 2000. He's been Assessment Appeals hearing officer since September of 1993. He was appointed a regular member of the Assessment Appeals Board in January of 2002. He also served on the Salvation Army Advisory Board for 10 years, including as chair and a member of the East Ventura Kiwanis for 10 years. He co-founded the notorious RNA Golfing Association, raunchy and atrocious golfers, which is still going strong. David holds one record and shares another. His shortest putt missed, 1 inch, and lowest net, 59, but not in the same round, right? David describes himself as a very private person who couldn't keep his mouth shut, who's moving to Alhambra, to a retirement community filled with retired preachers who could not keep their mouths shut. David's been married to Dee 63 years. They have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren. And it is truly an honor. A legend is moving on from Ventura County to Alhambra. Our loss, their gain down there. But you, I think, represent exactly what makes Ventura County a special place, and that is people really get involved, really become part of the community and do great things. And I'd like to bring this down, and we'd like to ask you to share with us some sage pieces of advice as you get ready to leave us, Dave. All right.
In 1977, when I came on your board, one of the first people I met was Roberta. And she's been telling me what to do ever since. And all of you understand what it's all about, too. Thank you. It's a very honor. I'll keep it brief because my feet are killing me today. So set the timer for 30 seconds. I thank you for this honor. I appreciate it.
You want me to carry this for you? Yeah.
You get a picture, David? Okay. He's going to walk away, but he needs to get off his feet. I think you'd need 2 or 3 lifetimes to do everything that he did. It's unbelievable. Wow. You are? Okay. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What an example, supervisors, you said, example of somebody who's been totally involved in anything and everything, huh?
Lost election as supervisor and came back and served all that time.
Oh, yeah, wow. That's great. That's great. 28, which is our authorization, continuation of memorandum understanding. Supervisor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, board members. And I am bringing this forward, and let me give you a quick background. I promise this will be brief, but most of you are aware of the Regional Energy Alliance that this board agreed to over 10 years ago, and it was in response at that time to 2001 when there was electricity crisis and brownouts and all kinds of issues concerning how do we work to protect a resource and to protect our region. So the REA was formed as a JPA. It has had numerous members, some come and go, but the board has been working for over 10 years, and I know that you've received in the attachments the success, and we receive an annual report of the success of the work of the Regional Energy Alliance Board. Its mission is certainly to respond to the evolution in utility programs and to have a local government utility partnership program. And we have an opportunity with a next contract cycle to continue this work and continue it with just a little reorganization of the structure. Its 10-year regional framework has been to implement durable, sustainable energy initiatives that support sensible growth, healthy environment economy, enhanced quality of life, and greater self-reliance. We maintained a relationship with utilities on behalf of the 12-member agencies, and the utilities have been our partners, both gas and electric, maintaining the local government utility partnership program. What this has done is to help us to really retain ratepayer dollars that are collected out of this county and been able to bring back to this county and to this region to leverage opportunities for energy efficiency. The local government utility partnership program provides performance-based opportunities for gas and electric and core programs and incentives for the county and cities to increase energy efficiency and to really work with our municipal partners in addition to special districts and schools to help them to provide opportunities for energy savings. In 2013-14, the California Public Utilities Commission created pilot projects in Northern and Southern California entitled Regional Energy Networks. We are at this point not a member of either the South or the North Regional Energy Network, but we are positioned well, I think, to continue this contract and to do so with the administration through the CEO's office of the JPA and the 2-year commitment of funding to complement and continue to do the work that provides both the incentives and leveraging matching dollars for folks to improve their local energy resources and conservation. So we are eligible to participate in the Southern California Regional Energy Network at some point if we choose to, which may bring access to millions of dollars to this region to continue to bring local ratepayer dollars back to our community. The utilities have certainly created Energies of Champions with the municipalities, of which we, the county, are one, and we have resources that come through that portal. This will continue, again, the broader regional effort to help, all ships rise with a high tide. So we're working, we've identified through the JPA, we've had discussions and we've agreed that to move the administration to the CEO's office would be a good step for the REA to maintain both regional approach and again to leverage dollars and continue collecting those ratepayer dollars. Highlights again in the board letter and with the attachment from Cheryl Collard, the director of the Regional Energy Alliance, was again to focus on keeping the local ratepayer dollars here locally. 246 projects between 40 public and nonprofit agencies, part of a $10.5 million that was leveraged in this region. when you look at the dollars that were used as incentives, that's just a piece of it, of that 10.5. In addition to that, you had both trainings that went on with professionals in the municipal and the JPA partnerships. You had workshops that were held for the business community for the to help them to improve their energy efficiency. You had leveraging of dollars that occurred. So it was really a very large investment and reinvestment in this area. So my request is that that the board would support this transition and support that we agree that the county CEO's office would step in as the administrator of the two-year contract with our public utility partners. And as the JPA was crafted from day one, it will still be the language that there is no cost to the county to be the administrator of this, of the Regional Energy Alliance, that the member agencies will not incur cost. In fact, again, as I've said, I think what we incur is opportunity. So I'd ask that that be the action of the board, that you would support that we do this, and that will be my motion.
We have a comment from Supervisor Bennett.
Yeah, I'll second the motion, but most importantly, I'd just like to compliment Supervisor Long and Cheryl Collard for their leadership on this. This is one of those quiet things that's sort of off the radar screen that ultimately can have tremendous potential. But energy, I mean, in the next 10 years, energy is going to become a real important and challenging issue for our country to address, for Ventura County to address. And so to be able to be proactive, to have this ready so that we can start to leverage more and more of those funds, and most importantly, keep that money that we are sending as part of our rate bill, to make sure that we get all of that back so that we can leverage good projects here in Ventura County. So thank you for your leadership on this. I know it's been out there for a long time,
Right.
10 years ago when this thing first came together, and to Cheryl Collard also for what she's done.
And thank you. I, too, wanted to acknowledge Cheryl. She doesn't want to be acknowledged, but I will. She took this, and she 10 years ago, and she really has created, I think, both a baseline of institutional success, but also knowledge throughout the county of individuals in most of all the cities who now understand energy and working to improve their resources. And to, in this transition, that the CEO has tagged Sue Hughes and Alejandra to pick up the mantle and to do this. And knowing that Sue has been so successful with many others in herding the cats of water, she can do the same with energy. So,
But don't you think that person
thank
be a
you.
high-energy person?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Someone who never sleeps.
Yeah, that's
Just
right.
go.
But also the other side of this is
But
all
thank
the
you,
all the
Steve.
cities participate. Everybody who wants to participate can participate, be
Yes.
part of this whole thing too, right?
You can
It's not a
agree-
county thing, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. You can agree to be a part of the JPA or not. It's all voluntary, and I'm pleased with those who have stuck to it, and I haven't given up on others who may wish to come back.
Well, when the grant dollars become available, everybody's
Everybody- Will wanna be back.
appreciative
That's
of the fact that
Yeah.
you've done the hard work of holding it all together.
Absolutely.
Supervisor Long, they were meeting over on Partridge. Is that
Yes.
location still going to be
Yes,
the same?
it
But
will.
administered now by the CEO's office?
Yes. VRSD has graciously agreed to house us for our meetings and to support us with the fiscal tracking of the contract dollars, which is, we have a bureaucracy at the county, so do the utilities. So they'll help us with that, and I appreciate Mark Lawler and the VRSD board agreeing to do that.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. Mike?
Just add it, and we're not adding anybody to do this. This is really taking other duties as assigned to a new level, and appreciate Sue and Alejandra and Kelly and everybody for picking this up. And they do have experience in doing this already because of the energy projects that we have, so it really makes sense.
Because of the energy behind them, or because of the...
That's right. And I'd like to thank quickly Brian Brennan, too. He and I were assigned the ad hoc to kind of work through how do we restructure this. He was been tremendous in working with me. Thank you.
Good. Well, good. All right, then let's vote. We've had a first and a second. That's great. That passes. Wonderful. All right.
Thank you.
Have fun, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, we've got number 29, our discussion of our report on our investments, the tremendous returns that we're doing, but you may have something else you want to talk about up front.
Good morning. I am Stephen Hintz, Ventura County's Treasurer, Tax Collector. Chairman Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers. I'm reminded every time I have the honor to come into this room what a small world it is in Ventura County. I had the good fortune to coach one of Supervisor Eaton's grandchildren in Little League. The kid was a dynamic pitcher, and that's why it was good fortune for me.
The thing he didn't do in his life was be a judge, wasn't it?
I suppose that if he had stayed longer in school, that would have been a very likely thing. I am here today for the investment report, but before I get there, I want to congratulate the newly re-elected members of the board and say how pleased I am for you, and I know there's nothing like an election and a brand new term to sharpen your focus on the issues that are of interest to you. The Office of the Treasurer Tax Collector is anxious to participate, as Supervisor Foy and others have mentioned, in increasing revenue. And I'm happy to report that the percentages of returns, collections in all of the major categories have shown significant increases during the last reporting year. And I look forward to a dialogue with the county exec and with all interested parties in efforts to save money at the same time that we are able to enhance the services that we render to everybody. And I want all of you to know that our office is on all fours with you in doing so. The report that is before you today is the last report that Mr. Hansen wrote. I had hoped that his signature would be on it, but he left the office before I was able to get a signature. He is not well, will not return to work. But the organization that he set up will continue, and we will provide you the service that you are entitled to have. This report is unremarkable, as many of them have been. It shows weighted a yield for the month of November of 0.67%. It is my belief that that return will continue to gradually drop until interest rates rise. I'm no longer as sanguine about the likelihood that interest rates will remain low indefinitely. Interest rates are like an inflated balloon being held at the bottom of a swimming pool. The Federal Reserve is holding that balloon down there right now. If they let go, it will rise to the surface very rapidly. And in the last minutes of the meeting of the Federal Reserve, it actually got reported that some members of the board discussed the possibility that it was time to end the artificial means being used to keep interest rates low. And simply on those minutes, interest rates increased measurably within days. So that accentuates the need for us to stay short. Our average days to maturity is still around 300, which is very short. And our daily meetings about what to invest in, taking into account the cash flow needs of the participants in the pool and the investment policy guidelines, are mainly oriented to finding the best deal we can in very short investments. I brought with me, so that you can see them, the people that I work with daily and that Bob worked with daily. Connie Ma is the Treasury Supervisor. Ms. Ma has a lengthy background in Ventura County and different agencies. Mrs. Ty Ralston is Clerical Supervisor 3, who worked closely with Bob in terms of decision-making and handling the phone calls. And Mrs. Bertha Lopez is the clerk, who does all the paperwork and is the one indispensable member of the team. I hope I did not use up all my time in case there are questions, but I will be pleased to answer any you may have.
Do you have any comments, or you do?
Well, first of all, obviously, Bob, leave a big gap in your department, so, and he also is very much appreciated by the board, so I know we are all missing him. I did have a question. There's I guess, page 3, there's of the exhibits, it says November transactions, and it
Yeah.
mentions all the purchases. So when there are sales, we also get notified too, is that right?
Yes, they are, when they happen, which is not very often, they will be on that page in red.
Thank you.
We did
It's a good piece of information to have. I don't recall if we've always had this, but I do appreciate it, and I look forward to looking at it more often then.
a sale reflects that something happened in our cash flow analysis, that we had a withdrawal from the pool for some reason that we had not expected. And so we try
Because
very
we
hard.
basically just hold until they mature.
We don't want to sell stuff.
Correct.
Over the last 45 months, I think there have been 80 sales transactions out of out of several hundred. So it has been a long-standing goal not to sell. We buy things so that they will mature on the days that we know we're going to need money for withdrawals.
And you always wonder when things start selling, whether you're making money or you're trying to avoid losses. And so it does give me some concern when all of a sudden you see these blips of lots of selling going on. Sometimes
Bob
you're doing
hated
it before
Bob
maturing.
hated red ink, and so do
Right.
I.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just, if you have contact with Bob and his family, wish him well. You know,
I certainly shall.
he was just an excellent individual, a very knowledgeable individual in investments, and we always enjoyed his humor when he came in here to give a report and talked about Toyota, talked about real estate, and talked about those issues that are important to all of us. But
We spoke to his wife, Marie, yesterday, and he is about to embark on a 6-week period of intensive treatment that we are all hopeful will relieve his physical symptoms.
and Your Honor, I know that you're going to be working with the CEO's office and other individuals, so I think it's extremely important that we, and I'm sure that our staff is excellent, but we need to look to someone in his caliber, somebody with his type of skill to.
I've already discussed with the county exec's office the opportunity to enter that dialogue at the earliest possible time.
And thank you anyway.
Just going to say yes, we're going to work with the judge on an approach going forward, definitely.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And ladies, I know it's tough when somebody just leaves like that on you and stuff, so I know how close you guys were. But I appreciate all the hard work and continued it and put up with him as much as you can, so. I got to do that on the retirement board. It's tough.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. We have a vote here? There we go. That passes. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We're only 10 minutes behind this 10:30. I'm catching up 5 minutes. Okay, we got a presentation by the Human Services Agency. He's got this down to 12 minutes. Got to get back up.
You wish.
Uh-oh, you bring another guy up with you. We know it's got to be worked out.
This is a joint presentation. Good morning, Chair Foy, members of the board, Barry Zimmerman and Human Services Agency, Mr. Powers. This is a joint presentation with the Human Services Agency and the county IT services. In particular, Mr. Pettit, the CIO for the county, will be also presenting on this project. Over the last year or so, you've heard little glimpses and comments about our electronic case management system and our ECM, we call it. And it's been a year since that's been implemented, and we've had a great opportunity to work with the contractor that helped us develop this and implement the project. Did a ROI study on it, and so we were the benefactors of those that work effort, and so we'd like to share some of that with you here today as well. So let me give you a brief outline of what we'll present. This is 1 year later after we went live and going with our electronic case management system, which in our aid-based programs were very paper-intensive and case-intensive in the sense of a manual process. We've automated that and converted all those paper records into electronic format, and now it's by and large part done electronically. And so we'll recap the project goals. The client experience will be given also. We have a video presentation, the return on investment of this in particular investment, and where we're going from here. The general philosophy of ECM and the way we deliver services throughout the county is that we wanted to create an environment where there was no wrong door, that a client can be served no matter where they went into a location within the county. Now, we've made a considerable effort to expand small storefronts and offices into communities so public has direct access to those staff in a live fashion, and they don't have to always work in a remote phone or whatever, that they can come into a community office and reach an individual. In order to be successful at that, though, we would have to be able to have work done throughout the entire system, because we couldn't have just large offices in every community. That just was not feasible in order to manage the workload in each of the communities. So technology was looked at as a bridge or a help in order to facilitate work to be done throughout the system and allow resources that may be located in larger locations to also fulfill work responsibilities that could not be achieved in smaller communities where they were interfacing with the public. So that's the concept behind No Wrong Door, that a client can go into a Fillmore office, receive services, but also a worker in Oxnard perhaps is the one actually performing the work and the task because they have all the information before them. So that's where the technology came in to really facilitate the process of greater access to the community and to the citizens, but allowing work to be done throughout. So that was the concept, and the goal was then to take all our paper that we had and to make it an electronic format and to relieve our organization of all the paper files that we have. So I'm going to turn the time over to Mike to explain the partnership and the technology partnership that we had in the project there. This is not just isolated to one or two or even the contractor. There were many people involved in this, in particular within our agency staff assigned to the project who stepped up and learned this technology and the responsibilities associated with it to help make this project successful. So I'll turn the time over to Mike at this portion.
Thank you. I'll do my part to keep this presentation brief. Henry Ford once said about teamwork, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And this project is another example of the theme and the demonstrated teamwork that Ventura County has been regarded for. Your board talked about it earlier this morning. This project is another example of that. The partnership between not just HSA and IT services, many different agencies had to come together to pull this project off. The General Services Agency, as you can imagine, we pulled a lot of paper out of the warehouse and we automated that. So they were heavily involved, and now they're coming back in and we're doing some scanning work with our General Services Agency. Procurement was heavily involved in getting these contracts through. Your board was involved. But HSA was a tremendous partner in that. By leveraging the county's enterprise content management system, we were able to achieve some remarkable accomplishments. First of all, we're able to reduce the cost of ECM as a program for many county agencies and departments. We used to have a structured charge for ECM that was 3.5 cents per page. We have about 24 million images in ECM today, so you can imagine that cost. Through this exercise, we were able to reduce the cost of the enterprise content management and that share in the cost for the county, so that the smallest agencies could participate in an annual maintenance of ECM for about $3,500 That's a remarkable cost. And for large agencies, HSA now has more than 17 million documents in the ECM repository. Their annual cost for that is about $200,000. So it really has helped, and that partnership has also achieved some tremendous savings, as you'll see in a few upcoming slides. And it's had a very green impact on the county. We've eliminated almost, I've reported in the past, we're approaching a 2-mile high stack of paper that we've eliminated from the county. All of the couriers driving those files around the county, that no longer occurs.
How many miles?
Almost 2 miles
My goodness.
of paper. All the courier work, we haven't calculated out how many miles those couriers drove in a year delivering case files to and from remote offices. But that's a tremendous greenhouse gas reduction. It's a tremendous savings in time. The files are immediately accessible by the caseworkers when they need them. We also have backup now of these files. Before they were in one place, only one person could look at them at a time. So the benefits go on and on and on, and it's the partnership throughout HSA. They analyzed over 1,000 forms. Government's not known for being efficient. They reduced over 200 forms through this exercise. That's remarkable in and of itself. That's 200 fewer forms that people are using.
I don't know, in government or not, that's a still remarkable deal. That's great, yeah.
It's tremendous, and that's what Ventura County is known for. That's the reputation. That's what's allowed us to be successful in these lean times. So that partnership and that teamwork cannot be underemphasized. Also, I want to emphasize just a rough timeline. The seeds of this project started back with out of our Lean Six, all of the Service Excellence program. So through the leadership of Barry and his organization, they looked at the way they were doing business. They saw the recession occurring. They said, how can we address the growing demands and not have to expand the cost of government? They performed some lean analysis, and that work started back in 2007 through 2008. And that part of that was what helped them reduce these more than 200 forms that are involved with their business process. And then in about 2010, they had established the full scope for the project and kicked off the project. It should be noted that fairly ambitious project. It was implemented in really less than a year. 17 million documents, and it radically touched every aspect of their business, all from the caseworker all the way through the program directors, all the way to the top. And HSA did a tremendous job communicating that out. The change is disruptive, but they managed that change
Did you
very well.
scan 17 million documents?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So, and the nice thing about this also is now this allows us, because the document and the content is electronic, we can drive the process upstream so we never create paper in the first place. So there's an initiative afoot right now in HSA that to never create that paper so that it never gets wasted in the first place, and they've been already made some headway in that, and so we won't have another 17 million paper documents that have to be scanned and destroyed. We hope to never have that happen in the
When you go down that trail, you end up with somebody purchasing paper, loading paper, delivering it to people. Paul's going to tell you all the copy machines that have to manage you guys, all this stuff you guys got to deal with. And so that's really tremendous. That's great. And then we're storing 2 million.
And you can search by search words and...
Absolutely. So the access to it before, where they had to put in a request to pull a file from a box in the warehouse and the courier had to drive that out to the location, it's instantaneous at the desktop of the caseworker. So a number of transactions that can be performed by a caseworker, the services can be provided much more quickly. The benefits compound, as you've identified, all the different impacts that this has. And it lays the foundation for the future. Looking at facility size reductions because we don't have filing cabinets, and core buildings where services are delivered out of, so we don't need as much facility footprint, and the benefits go on and on and on. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. It's very exciting. The metrics on the business process, so you can measure how many of these transactions we do now because files are being accessed through the system. So there's really a compounded benefit that occurs.
Yeah, and I can imagine what the caseworker themselves who can just look for something instantly like that and not have to wait and everything else, how much better that's got to be for them too. Their job has got to be so much more enjoyable.
Yes. And actually, I don't want to take any more time. I want to get straight to the video. We worked with a number of vendors, and the partnership internally with our technical staff to do this. And one of the vendors helped us produce a short video and talks about the impact both to the business and to our citizens in what this product has done. So we'll move on to that.
At the County of Ventura, over the last 3 years, we've seen a fair amount of change, both from a fiscal perspective and also in the way that we've delivered technology services. Kofax represented an opportunity for us to deliver a product that would add value to the business in fairly short order and meet the demands.
We've had a growing demand of services, a significant growth rate in the last 2 years, and budgets have been very flat, if not declining.
It's not likely that the Human Services Organization is going to be able to add resources during a recession, so they had to be able to do the same or more with the resources that they had.
So with Kofax and the concept of taking all that paperwork and putting it in an electronic format has changed our world. We deal with documents on upward of 15 to 20,000 documents a day.
Everybody's seen the Indiana Jones movie where they have this warehouse of all these crates. Well, we have something like that going on in government, and we have these warehouses with boxes of paper in them that look very similar. We're getting Kofax in place to capture the content off of these paper forms and get them into an electronic content management system.
The volume of paper was a real challenge. Being tied to a physical case folder did not allow us to have a distributed case management process. We were looking for a solution to automate that for ease of document retrieval and distribution of work.
With the Kofax solution, it was even more robust than I anticipated when we first explored this idea. So we've grown almost, in some programs, close to 200%, and yet we have not increased or doubled our staff. Now we're able to access information in a timely fashion to serve the clients that we serve.
The system is helping our clients tremendously. We moved to a task-based model where all the documents are being processed by several workers in several locations. So the clients can go to Simi Valley, drop off their paperwork, be scanned that same day, and a worker receive it in Oxnard and process it that same day.
With the introduction of Kofax, it really brings the Human Services Agency into the 21st century. You receive a phone call or the email and you handle it right then and there. One of my clients had turned in a quarterly report late, and by being able to just pull it up on Kofax, I saw everything that I needed.
It is so much different. It is such an efficient way of doing work now. The clients don't have to wait for their benefits because it was taking 2-3 days to get it to the worker. It could be anywhere from 2 days to 5 days, where now it's half a day to maximum 3 days depending on the workload. They are able to go into the system, extract the documents that they need, and within minutes process the documents, and the client would receive their benefits that same day that the documents were received.
Everybody has been able to provide a greater degree of customer service that is just paramount to our clients because our clients have a need. It's our responsibility to match the services that we provide to those needs.
Kofax has improved the integrity of the cases that we have tremendously.
Kofax improved our ability to serve the citizens and the clients that we interface with, most definitely.
Well, that was a good video. I think it reflects well on the staff and the work that they did. I recognize, I think Patty Sanchez is in the... Patty's back there, our project lead, who did a tremendous amount of work, not only the pre-work to set up the project, to get it to a vision, but to carry it through and to get everyone involved into it, and did a tremendous job there. Let me go over the numbers just to give you the magnitude of what you just saw there. The deployment was throughout the entire agency, which spans many locations in the county. We had 13 sites, 83 scanners. We eliminated forms and reduced those down. One of the big things there that took a tremendous amount of work from the IT part was that a lot of these forms that come in our state forms and so forth have been programmed so the computer recognizes what that form is, extracts the data on the form and populates it into the computer system appropriately. That is a tremendous amount of work. You think it's kind of simple. We see that in daily life, but there's a lot of effort that goes behind to make sure that that works appropriately and properly. We skim, we're under 400,000 images monthly is what's going into the system now, and we're up to about 17 million in just this short period of time beyond what we thought. Now, part of that is that we historically recovered the files that we had archived and have to maintain by law records. And so if you can imagine, we had 60,000, just around 60,000 boxes in storage with GSA. A tremendous amount of cases and volume, and all that's been removed. GSA no longer has that in their warehouse. It's all been put in electronic format, so we have complete histories associated with these cases, and it's not just a going forward, but now we're able to go back. And so now all the efforts associated with auditing, reviews, and so forth are all captured electronically, and we don't have a split system at all. So a tremendous effort there. So they did helped us calculate out what our total investment are, and these are some graphics in the financial aspect of putting a project together like this. And there's several graphs, and they did it over a 3-year or 25-month payback period to look at see if the investment is worth the time and effort there. This is kind of a graphical chart showing the costs associated with a project like this, from training costs to the actual hardware and software and consulting investments in there. The investment was a little bit over $3.1 million, but the calculated benefit and cost avoidance and shift in resources, which we deal with a lot, is trying to free up resources in less productive areas and moving them to more productive areas, yielded a $3.9 million benefit to us in that same horizon there. So these are some of the details of that. Like in a loan, we have about $1.1 million worth of storage cost savings, and that would have been for the 60,000 boxes. That would have just been eating up a fixed cost associated with the budget over time, and that's the net savings associated with those type of realities that occur from allowing technology to do more for us there. The avoidance in paper costs, we deal with vital documents of the clients coming in, birth certificates, driver's license, those type things. In the old way, we would have to take a copy of everything and give it. Here we can just scan the original and we're done, and it's in our system. So we have no further duplication or creation of paper occurring based on vital documents that come through our doors there. We've got some labor productivity significant there, the difference between going and getting case volumes and so forth, as well as someone sitting at their desk and able to pull it up now. What doesn't show here is labor productivity in which someone can address an issue in Simi Valley with someone in Oxnard or vice versa there, that beforehand we could never have done that type of work because we did not have the physical documents or the ability to see those in there. So this lays down a future of many different things. Obviously, there's applicability and lessons we've learned that can now move out into other program areas on how best we can do work. Also, it lends us for new ways of looking at integrating services with partners that we have. So original plan was that we had scanning occurring throughout the organization as documents would come in, but now with the help and the facilitation with GSA, they've acquired a product of a high-speed scanner in which we can centralize that scanning and interface it with it. So now all paper can just go through one conduit through the mail center, because they receive all the mail for the county, be scanned, and then we can distribute that work out throughout, which will be an evolution that is occurring now and result in greater capacity and greater savings.
This question I've been hanging on to, it seems like the right time for me to ask you. Is there anything what do we need to do to decrease the amount of paper coming in? So we're doing a great job here.
Yeah.
But do we need to lobby the state legislature to say, quit sending us paper forms and sending them electronically? to have the state do that? I mean, what's the greatest source of the paper coming in that we still have to scan?
Yeah, the greatest source is still the regulatory requirements around the program. And so there is some efforts there. We call it a modernization effort or simplification of program efforts, that each year we do lobby for simplifying it and allowing us access to other means to validate data. For example, there's going to be a huge shift occurring with healthcare reform and the new model of healthcare reform. As opposed to seeing paper records, now we are going to have access in order to electronic systems to validate that data. So we'll see a lessening of paper that will be required to see over time.
So I guess a year from now, if you give us a report where that is, and let us know what we can do to try to push, because I could see this, if the state's dragging their feet, we lose some of the value of this investment. If we have to keep scanning documents in, we want to get to the point where the data comes electronically to us, so we don't even have to go through this process of scanning documents.
That is correct, and we're working on legislation to allow for electronic phone signatures, these type things, so we don't require a wet signature to be scanned in those. But those are all productivity aspects that we would like to see occur for the savings and using technology for our benefit. Definitely.
Good.
Barry, is that also, you have kiosks there, so when people sign up for benefit, they can do it on a kiosk, they don't have to do it on a paper form, and is that kind of
right? And the benefit of now that we have the technology to capture images into the case management system, we can actually have a kiosk out there that someone says, oh, I need to show proof of who I am.
Right.
I can set it down there, scan it, and I'm done. And so paper's never generated, but we do capture the image associated with the document there. So we are testing and exploring these type things really where individuals can self-help themselves, and also with the ability to work with images per se. They can do it from their own home computer, if they have a home computer, or a community-based organization that has a computer and so forth, that they can just send the images that we need in order to validate the activity that's occurring. So there's a lot of benefits and a potential here that we've reached a new, what I would call, technology platform or level that now allows us to go and springboard from here into new and innovative ideas.
Barry, I think the customer service is so important, that efficiency to get records from point A to point B, and the travel time, that example from having to get information from Simi Valley to Oxnard, the cost of that is just tremendous, to do that. So I think that this is great, to use that COFAX system to work with our employees and to work with the customers to provide that efficiency. One of the things that I want to mention to the IRS and also the Franchise Tax Board is now going paperless too. In fact, I think they have by 2014 or 15, almost all income tax is going to have to be filed electronically.
Right.
And also, you have to maintain an electronic file at the office too for the franchise and also the IRS. So they're going paperless too.
So that's kind of the direction of the industry. So we do have now the ability to do it, and there's transformation that occurs in our services, transformation of how we do business, how clients interact with that, and that will be an ongoing effort, and we recognize that. We recognize that this doesn't solve everyone's issues in delivering services, but it is a good step forward, and
the money saved, I think, is tremendous.
It's just a great benefit into the future, and as we learn more to allow the system to do more of these manual processes, we can now spend our time working with people, and that's what we're designed to do. So that kind of gives you an overview of what has been going on and the great efforts and partnerships with the IT services for us.
Great partnership. Mike?
It's such an incredible win for so many levels. I appreciate the good work. And the bottom line is the client is being served better as a result of it.
So, thank you.
Again, just to echo the congratulations to both departments and your teams and your leadership. So this is a great program in HSA, but it's also a great model for other county departments to replicate. The lessons that they've learned there and the successes that they've had can really be replicated countywide, which is something that we're looking at. And as part of that, working with GSA and IT as well, we're looking at, that creates space impacts too. So we're looking sort of countywide. We have, it's going to free up some space. Maybe we can use that more efficiently.
That we don't have to. One of the things, Barry, as you did that and you found the more efficiency, it sounded like, though, also, during the last 3 years, you've expanded, there's been a greater need out there, right?
Yes,
and you haven't had to
absolutely.
hire people for that need. So I know you had some of that, but there's more savings and bigger ongoing savings, which is going to be not just a salary, but someplace to put a person, the equipment they need, everything else. So, yeah, and being around and involved in this, quote, I call going paperless, basically, in this whole thing. And I know that leadership back here with this young lady back here doing that, that's a lot of work. And it's a full-time job for the regular job they're doing on top of it. So I got to commend you guys for really going after it. And I know, Mike, for your side, to work with somebody who's willing to step up to do this, because I know you want to get it done throughout the time. And as the CEO said, we want this to be a model, guys. Okay, Barry's department's already broken the ice a little bit on this thing, and so we know how to get this done. It's not going to, but it goes back to that idea we said this morning. We are going to do everything we can to save every dollar we can, to be effective, efficient, to provide services, so that when these costs get out of, just keep going up, we're not laying people off. We're going to still find a way to provide the service. So you save the money, provide the service, and the public is still served, and we didn't have to spend any more tax dollars to it. So I just appreciate all the hard work you guys did. So thanks for the presentation. I know you took more than 12 minutes, but that's okay.
13 minutes.
All right, so let's vote on this. We have a second. We got our air quality meeting coming up here. See them patiently waiting out there for us. All right, so we're going to adjourn this meeting, and then we'll be, what? Or just... Yeah. For a few minutes, and we'll be back after the air quality meeting. Okay, you ready to go? All right, we'll come back to session here. How about if we take, just going to take a little bit out of order, 38. I know we've got a speaker who's been sitting here on 38 for a little bit, so. No, Barry, you did such a great presentation. I want to get you out early, that's what it is. Thank you. The Senate program, there you go.
All right. Good afternoon. Chair Foy, members of the board, Barry Zimmerman, Human Services Agency. Item 38 before you today is a request for additional social work positions for the Children's Department, 20 in total there. As you know and as you recall, this has been the workload, and dealing with the increase in referrals and activity in that arena has been an ongoing discussion with your board since a budget, last year's budget, we started that discussion. So we've worked through the summer, which was our agreement to see how the caseload would work, and the caseload still continues to increase. At this time, it is needed that we have filled all our vacant positions. That was agreed in the budget, and now need to increase allocations in order to resource appropriately the needed work. The work continues to increase, so this is a step in the right direction, and we'll continue to monitor the workload and activity. Not to say that this resolves all the workloads that's out there. We still have other support and functions that are being looked at and analyzed, and worked with the CEO's office and how to address those. I do have one technical correction on the board letter in the summary of revenues. The total net cost should be $771,000 on there. That was a miscatch on the numbers there. So if you have any discussion, I know we have a comment card on this item, and maybe I'll wait for questions until after that.
Why don't we do the comment first? So, Laura?
Hello, Chairman and board members. SEIU 721 is pleased to take the opportunity today to offer testimony in support of the increased allocations. I'd like to set the context a little bit for you, just give you a little historical background. As the caseloads have increased, I know you're well aware, our members continue to do the work for the good of our communities. In the last contract negotiation, the contract language that was over 25 years old was eliminated from the contract, and in place of it was new language to form a workload forum. And that established a process that allowed frontline workers and management to jointly work together to establish some new standards, caseload standards, workload standards, some consistent business practices, and a way to equitably distribute the workload amongst the various job classifications in the agency. Social workers eagerly participated and provided experience-based input with optimism at arriving at sustainable workloads. Many were creative teamwork efficiencies. However, the reality is that the surge in referrals requires experienced workers to properly handle the hundreds of cases and to manage regulations and paperwork that follows. Many of you board members may recall last year our social workers, along with SEIU communications specialist Jesse Luna, who's here today, worked on a video, and we did a little road tour to most of your offices and presented that to you and your staff, which kind of highlighted the work that social workers do. The last several years has seen amazing sacrifices by social workers to their own personal lives and families. One social worker told me tearfully that her own children asked why mom spent so many hours for other people's children when her own needed her. Another father brought his son to a Saturday SEIU meeting where we were brainstorming different ideas to help bring positive solutions to the table. So members are contributing even outside of work to really bring positive solution to this tremendous workload issue that is always going to be with us, but there's certainly ways that we can streamline and do the best job using best practices without further burdening your staff. So there is a social cost to the community and to the employees when there are not enough workers to properly do the job. So we certainly, from SEIU, thank you for your support for our community's families and ask for your approval today for these additional allocations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't think there's any question this board does whatever it takes to support these children and protect these children.
Thank you, Lord.
Barry,
Yes.
Have you got any questions, anybody? You got Supervisor?
A couple questions, Barry. One, we're 50% offset with the federal government here.
That's correct.
In terms of this, what kind of confidence do we have that federal funding offset will continue for the next couple of years here?
It's pretty well guaranteed.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Good. And what is your, how much information, how reliable do we think how much knowledge do we think we have in terms of what the cause is of this significant, steady increase in caseload? Cases being referred to us. Is it the higher poverty rates, the economic challenges of people in this lower class?
Well, I think there's a lot of societal factors in there. Whether I can pinpoint it or we can statistically pinpoint it to one, I would hesitate to do so. But I can communicate what the resultant and what we see happen. What a good number, and actually the increase in the referrals coming in, many of them are dealing with domestic violence and substance abuse issues is the primary causation of most of the workload that we're seeing at this point. Now, is that a reflection of economic times? Is that a reflection of other activities in the community? Perhaps, but that's the resultant that we're seeing at this point in time.
Thank you.
So I was going to ask those same kind of questions.
Yeah.
So we're not backtracking that a little bit to see this family hasn't had domestic violence, we lost a job and out of work for a while. We're not doing some of that's not part of what you're doing.
Well, we look at the histories of the families, and most of the time, if it's a domestic violence, there is a history associated with us off and on over time and services that failed and what have you. The causation of it could be due to economic factors. We do know that we've had some other relative issues, abuses of children due to multiple relation families moving together and those type things, and those would be economic conditions of living under one house. So whether that's the predominant or not, it is an effect of what the current conditions are. So you would say as economic times get harder and so forth, that there may be increases associated with that. We don't statistically say it one way or the other. All we know is that there's a resultant from it.
Yeah, I guess we look at the idea is that this could continue, we could add more and more because what's going on is, you always try to go to the root, what are we going to do to stop the root while we try to take care of it. It's not either or, it's kind of a both situation.
Yeah, absolutely, and I would think that, we have seen significant increase in our referrals and in activity since the recessionary period. But also at the same time, we've done a considerable amount of outreach with mandatory reporters and others in order to be aware of situations in order for us to intervene appropriately. So there's a lot of activity going on during this time period.
I was going to say, so some of it may not just be there's that dramatic increase, it's just that we're reporting more of it.
There could be a greater awareness, which we have promoted, and that has been by various means. I mean, we had some very difficult cases here that also we used as an opportunity to promote and to reach out so we can intervene where situations are harmful to children and protect them. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, John.
I just want to share, I think you said something very significant here, Barry, under discussion where it says a number of request increase, keeping the ratio of social workers in managed cases in line with a safe, equitable, and manageable work distribution is extremely important. I think this is some of the concerns that Nancy was sharing with us and also Espinosa. So I think it's important that we also look at that too.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the goal here is to continue that.
To continue that.
And we'll continue to monitor that and work with the CEO's office to manage resources appropriately.
And that kind of helps the morale of the employees and also the social workers and increases the output of that particular employee.
Sure.
Supervisor Long?
And just, thank you. And we've had this discussion. I've met with Mr. Zimmerman a few times on the priority we all have for protecting our children and the lengthy discussions this board had a couple years ago over some egregious cases. I think that the priority of bringing on these workers, one for the identifying the need and the work that was done in the background that said we need to move ahead and do this and bring some child welfare social workers back into the community to help us with this, not just this increased workload, but what we see as multiple things that impact families that may result in children being harmed. That we should be looking at every tool possible, every model possible to help us advance this. And in talking with behavioral health director and recently with the district attorney to talk about have we made progress in that integrated conversation across the boundaries where possible and where law allows, and looking at how we make sure that there is that communication. And the district attorneys certainly felt that there's ongoing task force work, or there has been, that really helped to frame this and move it forward for the interest of the child. And then our MDIC is a 24/7 available site for access, and that Children Protective Services workers and for us to be able to use that. And also, as mentioning that looking at models out there, LA's got a pretty aggressive model, and looking at how we can learn from that and help to advance that in our county too. And that is we've done a very good job over the years to get rid of the silos and to really address how do we, knowing that there are rightfully so some privacy issues, but being able to have the best communications possible in the interest of the child.
Right.
And Mr. Zimmerman's fully aware of this and engaged on this, and we need to continue to work that, whether we need additional legislative platform areas or identify how, again, we can improve that. But this is a significant step, just to have our good people out there working to bring the information to us and to be able to let us know where we need to continue to make improvements to protect our children.
Appreciate those comments. Yes.
I would just say, it looks like you're going to bring these new workers on and train them, and within a couple of years there'll be about $1 million annually that will be going to pay for that. But I can't think of anything more important that this county can do than to protect children from particularly abuse. And in that regard, since Supervisor Long was talking about the LA model, and I don't know if that's necessarily where we want to go, but I do know from what I've recently read that their first priority, as is ours, is the safety of the child. And while there's a lot of efforts towards reunification with the family, it will always be our priority that first, even before reunification, the most important thing is the safety of the child. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you coming forward with this. I think it will help to, reduce those caseloads, which will then allow for more thorough review and monitoring, and I really appreciate that. So I'm glad you came forward with this.
Supervisor.
I just want to say, particularly after hearing all of the comments and stuff, I'm making the motion that we adopt staff's recommendation, and just like to make these comments. That this is, it's very appropriate that this happens at our first meeting back here in 2013. I think that we should recognize that this is a big deal. There are very few times when we come in here and we say, we're putting 20 more positions into anything. And so I appreciate the work that's been done to sort of create the environment so that there is the trust between your department and the CEO's office, saying, okay, this is what's needed. We're going to phase these in. We're going to monitor this. It's not something that we take lightly at all in these tough economic times to allocate 20 more positions. It's a comment on how much of a priority this is. It certainly fits in the whole category of public safety. This is public safety for those kids. There's no question about it in my mind. And I know it's something that walks that very, threads that, that fine line that we try to walk between making sure that we're really being efficient with our dollars, and at the same time that we're funding the positions that we should fund. So certainly I'm really happy to see this. Over the years, it's something we've identified over and over again, and happy to make the motion to have it go forward. But I want to recognize this. You won't see it in the next, we won't see it in the next few months. We're not going to see another agenda item that says 20 regular positions. It's not. It has a tendency. It could be sort of a quiet, small little thing that happens here. This is a significant step, and so I appreciate the CEO working with Barry. I would appreciate both of you in terms of pulling this off and doing that, and to the extent that Paul Dursey back there in terms of working on
He got
this.
his grips off that money and said,
That's
good.
right. Yeah, right.
Well,
It's nice that it's being matched 50%.
Yeah, that's a
Mr. Powers.
good financial situation for us.
I think it's really been said, but it is tight budget times, but this is an essential service. And your board's been very clear. It costs what it costs. We have to do it. We have to do it right. Helps with child protective services, but also the permanency aspect of things and adoptions as well, too. So there's a lot of really important factors in this that lead to long-term viability.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's part of what it is. You were not serving these. You were serving, bringing other people to do this kind of work, right? You're we were not doing some of the other things that we can get back to, like adoptions, is more faster and get through that.
Yeah, it's a system approach, and that's the way we view it, that we take care of the child as their needs,
Right.
the full
Yeah,
spectrum.
we appreciate it. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's no question, the problem is the problem. We've got to hopefully work through solutions on that issue, because at the end of the day, we've got to keep these kids to their family if we can, but you've got to do your work. So I agree, I'll go along with that.
Yeah, if I could say, if you only have $1 to invest, investing in the safety of kids is just has to be where you send it, right?
So we've already voted while we talked in this past, so thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. So I appreciate you waiting for this, to make your comments. It took a while to get there. Why don't we go to 36 real quick? She's going to tell us why they're so good and Yolo County wants to take on some.
I'm finished. Any other comments? Any questions? I'm good with that. Debbie Fromm for the Department of Child Support Services. Good afternoon, Chair Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers. Clearly, you recall that I've been before you on a few occasions regarding our call center, and this is another one of those. I'll just very quickly recap and assure you that we continue to operate a top-performing call center. We are continuing to answer calls in under 30 seconds as an average. The state target is under 5 minutes. Our internal target is under 60 seconds, so we're exceeding all of the above. Our staff, our call center continues to be staffed with over 95% bilingual staff, so that has continued. And our quarterly customer service surveys that we send out continue to show that we are meeting and exceeding our customer needs and customer expectations on all levels, including responsiveness, accurate information, follow-through, courtesy, and importantly, empathy. In recent years, the California State Department of Child Support Services has implemented statewide automation systems for both case management and payment distribution. Those systems have provided us the opportunity to reevaluate, reorganize, and in many cases restructure our operations, and we have been doing that constantly. As do many of our partners in the county, we maximize our use of technology, and we manage our budget strategically. Where we can save time, resources, and money in one area of our operations, we are utilizing those elements in other areas of our operations, always with an eye on efficiency and customer service, and always staying within our state funding allocation. We are still a work in progress, and our regional call center is a reflection of the changing dynamic in the child support program in the state of California. It is in Ventura's best interest for us to continue to expand our call center to its full capacity within our existing funding allocation. I'll say that a few times just to be sure you're calm. In doing so, we support our state funding level. We receive financial credit from the state toward our cost effectiveness, which is a federal performance measure. We keep and add jobs in Ventura County. Yesterday, 5 newly hired customer service representatives joined our department and began their 1 month of training in preparation for assuming their positions in our call center. We have the capacity to take Yolo County calls and frankly, to take additional calls within our newly expanded staff resources.
She's selling right there.
Right there. With no negative impact on our high standards for customer service, and with no cost to the county. I think I've said that 4 times. Are we good with that one? County Strategic Plan Goals 1 and 2 state, be a peak performing organization that consistently demonstrates the effective use of available resources to provide the highest possible service and public communications, and invest in initiatives and tools to effectively and efficiently utilize, manage, optimize, and protect the county workforce, county resources, and county assets. At DCSS, we are very committed to those goals. We try to walk the talk. We hope it shows. I respectfully ask your approval for the plan of cooperation with Yolo County Child Support Services and for your authorization for me to sign up to 2 additional plans of cooperation with other, most likely small or medium local child support agencies with the exact same terms and benefits to our department in the county.
Making the assumption this is going to keep happening, so why come back here? Already got these deals, right?
Well, I can tell you that we've already been contacted by Monterey County. We're expecting to have a plan of cooperation with them within the next couple of weeks. So I am anticipating that and trying to save all of us time,
You're doing a
and
good
you don't
job.
have to hear me again, although I'm happy to come and brag if you like.
Keep saying it didn't cost. Is the association out there promoting you because you've done such a good job? Is that what's happening, or are you just pounding up and down the counties?
No and no. Actually, the counties have approached us. We're very particular about which counties we will take on.
No, she
We
means
want
selective.
those that are run efficiently with their operations and that are equally as dedicated to customer service as we are, because it's a partnership. We take the calls, but about 5% of the calls are referred back to the local child support agency for their caseworkers to work. We need to know that they're going to do their job, do it timely, or we get callbacks. So it's a great partnership between the counties. So they are approaching us.
Yes, Supervisor.
Kudos all the way around.
Thank you.
I'm happy to see us. The one thing is we're authorizing you to go ahead and sign with 2 other counties.
I put up to two other
Yeah.
counties. We have capacity to take about another 3,500 calls. If Monterey joins, that would max us out
And
because of their call volume.
Sure. And the only question that I have, I don't think this is a problem, but I want to make sure that as we go and expand to 2 more counties, that there's no decrease in our own performance with our own customers.
Absolutely.
And I know that's what you're committed to. I just want some kind of verification as that process goes forward. So I'm fine signing that authority over. I just want somebody in the CEO's office to be able to get from you some verification that we're still meeting all of our high standards that we have for our
Absolutely. We actually have access to the system to print monthly reports of our call response time, the abandonment rate, call wait time, after call work time. We monitor those by the individual, but also by the teams, by the office as a whole.
So if at the time you sign up another county, and then perhaps maybe 6 months after we sign up the other county, if the CEO's office would
That's a
just
good point.
just check that out and
You bet.
make sure things are in good
You
shape,
bet.
I'd appreciate it. Good, thank you.
You bet.
That's good. It's exciting to see it. This is really the opportunity we hope, as a taxpayer out there, the governments will be doing, saying, there's somebody doing it efficient, let's go do it with them. And so somebody else, maybe we can't do it as well, or we're just starting up and go to somebody else. This is what we need to be doing. I mean, and it's great. It doesn't take away from anybody. We're still doing the same service, and then
Right.
people are getting the better service. So
Right.
I commend you on what you're doing, and hopefully once you get to that point and at Monterey, and if we got to expand and do whatever to help, because I'm sure it brings our efficiencies down and our costs down in our county too at the same
Yes.
time. And it helps the other, we're all in this together as a city, county, and state. So, well, good. Congratulations on doing it. And we've got a motion and a second by Supervisor Long and Supervisor Bennett. And so
Good job. Thank
that's
you.
great.
Thank you very
Are you
much.
doing it within your budget, though?
No cost to the county, in case I didn't mention
No
that.
cost. You said it 4 times, right?
Hey,
Should I shoot for 5, or are we good?
who's the people that hired this woman? Genius.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been waiting back there a long time. You want to come up here or what? Let's do it. I'm sure lunch is getting pretty interesting to a few people up here. So.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Foy and board members. Good afternoon. Oh, yeah, afternoon. And our CEO, Michael Powers. We're before you to request permission for the Ventura County Health Care Plan to submit an application to participate in the state of California's health benefit exchange. If we're successful, it would allow currently uninsured Ventura County residents to obtain insurance coverage from Ventura County Health Care Plan through the Affordable Care Act subsidized insurance coverage programs. During this step and this preliminary step that we're taking in submitting the application, what will happen is the state will screen the applications and then decide on a certain number of plans that will proceed through a more extensive evaluation. And at this point, we understand there are over 30 plans that have submitted requests to the state, and at least a dozen or so here in the Southern California area. And what we anticipate from what we know right now is that the state will likely approve 4 or 5 plans that will cover the Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, and San Luis Obispo County region. And we've already checked, and it's fine that we're a Ventura County plan for Ventura County. The what will, and you know, in terms of this evaluation, I think we all understand that we're going up, we're competing, essentially submitting applications where Kaiser and Blue Cross and Blue Shield are doing the same thing. And so, you know, we're certainly not guaranteed this, but feel that it's an important thing for the healthcare agency and for the County of Ventura to do for our local residents. The future steps in the evaluation will include us putting together basically all of the expenses and costs that will be associated with providing the medical care, and then coming up with rates. We've already contracted with Milliman, which is an actuarial firm, to help us arrive at those rates so that there'll be appropriate rates to what our expenses are, and help make sure that this minimizes any fiscal risk to us. In this process, we will be coming back to the board before this is actually implemented to review with you and get approval. So our request today is that we be allowed to submit the application, but we will be back again. One of the, and I had a conversation with Supervisor Foy, and one of the questions, which I think was is key, and we had to think about this, is why are we doing this? And a lot of this is based on our experience in what we do. And so many of the patients that are now going to be covered under this these insurance programs are patients that currently receive their care with us. And as you know about our ACE program, we have over 11,000 people enrolled, and about 25% of those patients, when January of 2013 comes in, 75% will transition into the expanded Medi-Cal program, about 25% into the health benefit exchanges. And what we'd like to do is give them the opportunity to continue to get their coverage through us and their services through us and the other providers that provide services through Ventura County Healthcare Plan. We know right now, we think we do a good job of it, and we do have data from UCLA showing that we have about 1/3 the number of emergency room visits and about 40% of the inpatient utilization that other low-income health plans have. So our system does work, and that's one of another big reason why we're wanting to pursue this. We already have public programs within Ventura County Healthcare Plan, namely the Healthy Families Program and the AIM program that we've been doing for many years. And in fact, the health plan itself has been providing services to county employees and other affiliated groups for about 18 years. And so we feel it's a kind of a natural extension of what we're doing. At this point, one of the other issues is, if we don't do this, certainly the initial programs that get approved will go for 3 years. And so you essentially sit out for the next 3 years if you don't, submit an application and try to participate. And we think these 3 years will be sort of critical. And again, one of our major motivations is to allow us to retain the patients in our system and in fact provide that other folks that maybe are out there that are in the same sort of income levels, the lower, in terms of the federal poverty level, will be able to access services through the plan and then be able to access the services through the providers that we contract with.
Dr. Bond?
Yes.
Is this going to cost us any more money, or our employees that are in the plan now have to pay more?
No, in fact, part of that will be linked in with when we do the rate setting and come up with what our premium would be to cover those costs. But one of the things that does happen in most businesses is that you have the fixed costs of infrastructure, that as you can spread that against a larger and larger business, you're able to drop expense.
So we end up getting more clients at a reduced cost then?
Well, hopefully per client in terms of the overhead expense.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions on this? I've got some, but... Okay, or comment. Okay, one of the things is I've been reading through all the different comments in all the different states. We've only got about we have 9 states who have said they don't want to participate in exchange at all. We got 17 who are still looking at it. We've got some that have agreed to do it. And then 5 are leaning towards not participating. I was just curious because some of the questions I have, and some of these governors you're reading, some are Democrats, most of them are Republican, but on that, they're just concerned about the long-term deficit issue of, I think it was $450 million alone in Oklahoma, a small state, that kind of thing, and worried about what happens if we don't get funding and this thing does blow up. I mean, with the deficit. So where are we at? What do we do when we're already on this thing and we're having to take these some of the other insurance companies have a whole other businesses, they can move off, they don't like it, like they've done before in private exchanges, you know.
Sure.
What happens to us? We're running such a good system that seems to be able to put money away and do such a tremendous job. So I'm really concerned about what the financial aspects of what could happen to us.
Yeah, I think a couple of points. I mean, one is in terms of the long-term viability of all of this, I think all of us are going to be wondering, how do you get enough money to do all of this reform? And a lot of that is going to have to be through improving the efficiency of care, which is something that we're good at. And right now, many of those patients that we're seeing, we actually aren't getting paid for. And they do come to our system, they're self-pay, the rate of collection is fairly low, and even within the ACE program, we get 50 cents of every dollar we spend. So we have to absorb a 50-cent loss. And so our feeling is that in going into this exchange, that we'll actually do better financially in covering that same patient population.
Right, so you're hoping that if Sam comes in and we're only getting $100 on him, if we get $200 on through an exchange, is what you're hoping that the premium would be.
Yeah,
so
exactly right.
We're making more money on it.
Exactly.
But long term, I mean, I guess it looks like, I don't know, I just see some of that issue. Now, you did talk to me, we had a really good talk, Mike talked me to us. One of my things, we were taking on a whole lot of patients into our system, would it affect some of our other people? But it doesn't sound like we're taking on a ton more people, possibly?
No, it's not, because the total population's estimated maybe 40,000 people that'll be spread over those 4 or 5 different plans. And so if we were to just say, well, how many will we get? We've got about probably several thousand right now because of the ACE program and other folks that are seeing us, but we're estimating maybe 8,000 lives. And if you start to think about that in terms of doctor equivalents, that's about 4 primary care practices. And we've got over 100 primary care providers.
Over all your clinical...
So it'll spread over our clinics and also the other providers that provide services. So it's really, you're probably looking at this spread over, I'm going to say 150 to 200 providers.
So we got Mr.
Yeah, so there's, as Dr. Gonzalez mentioned, there's also private providers. There's our providers in our clinics, but there's also maybe 40% of the providers or so in the plan are private providers as well. But also in our system, your board, with your support, we have expanded our primary care clinics throughout the county, so that will help. And also having the largest family medicine residency program in the state helps as well, and they're helping with the expansion. Sometimes as many as 70-80% of the docs come out of our residency. So unlike a lot of other systems that struggle to find primary care physicians, we really are growing our own a bit here.
Yeah, and that's not a bad point, because there's been this whole push across the country. Where are we going to find these primary care doctors, especially we're cutting their, as we talk about that doc thing and everything else, they cut so much out, right? I think it's a big piece. Yeah, for me, I still struggle with the whole idea of this whole issue, so it's really difficult for me to look at this. But it sounds like on some of the pieces, in a sense, could help, not help, but may not hurt us too much in what we're doing.
Right.
What you're doing. I mean, I would imagine this board will, pass this kind of thing and do this. It's just, for me, as I sit here and struggle with the whole idea of expanding this deal, because, we're going to hit a debt ceiling limit here pretty quick, and then all of a sudden the states are going to have to come up and say, okay, hey, where's the money, federal government, help us for this?
And one of the things that our conversation made me think about, too, is that if this whole thing were to crash, right, and it doesn't work, those patients are going to come back to us anyway. Mm-hmm. They're not going to stay in those practices and with other service providers.
That service now anyway. Right?
We are their safety net.
Yeah, the only thing I look, if there was some other commercial carrier and with their large reserves, they were paying for them and not getting paid by the Fed. It's not us having to do it. That kind of thing. Supervisor? Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. She had a thing.
Well, I was just, I support this. I think it's worth having a place at the table with it, and if we get awarded the opportunity, it is the public we're serving, and it helps us to leverage, again, additional dollars and to continue to serve and have a healthy community at the end of the day. If there's any county that is most prepared for this, it's us. Mm-hmm. It's us. I think there are other counties who shouldn't be looking at this and probably aren't if they're looking at the real bottom line and the real system. But I think we're probably the most prepared as a county to be able to take on this additional population, frankly.
Supervisor Fine. I'd like to just make 3 points. One is healthcare is changing very rapidly in this country. And so the question is, what do we do about it? It doesn't mean that we necessarily embrace every change, but healthcare is changing. Our professionals who have already done a great job of running our department are coming to us and saying, this is a change that we think we ought to make and embrace. And it seems to me, the third point is, it seems to me that this makes common sense. It does seem, but if our professionals are saying, the professionals who I expect to sort of look at those behind-the-scenes things that may not be obvious to us from the outside, are saying, we think this makes sense. And then just from a common sense standpoint, I think it makes sense because, as you say, this is a population. We have a good system, and it is likely that low-income people in Ventura County will be significantly better off if we move forward with this exchange, if the county continues to move forward with it. Because although we talk about these other companies and they may have deep reserves, et cetera, we know they're masters at ultimately getting out of serving populations that are low-income populations that don't work for them, et cetera. We end up as a safety net anyway, and it seems like being the player here is the better way for those people to get the care and to maintain. So many of them need to maintain their medical homes that they have at this point in time. This allows that medical home to be maintained. A whole lot of children in healthy families are not going to qualify for Medi-Cal. The exchange is going to be where they're going to need to go. We're treating them, at this point in time, as an example. So I'd offer those three things. There's this tremendous change that's out there. I think if you're not proactive in this business, you don't embrace everything, but if you're not proactive, you're really making a mistake. Our professionals are saying this is the right move to make, and I think it makes common sense also. So.
Thank you.
Again, I appreciate anybody else in their comments? No. Oh, Lynn, I'm sorry.
I would just say we do have an excellent system. As Supervisor Long was saying, we are prepared. Just what you're talking about, we keep people out of the emergency room. We're not for profit, and I think that's probably the biggest thing we've got going. We're not motivated to burn patients' dollars and trying to give them excessive treatment. So I think that we have a lot going for us. While other counties and throughout the nation, hospitals are suffering and closing, we actually opened up the Santa Paula Hospital. We've got a great system where our employees are patients in our county system, and I think that bolsters it also. So I think we have a lot going for us, and if we can't do it, I don't think anyone can. So I have a lot of confidence in the system that we have, that we can handle it, and that it, as I was saying, benefits from the fact that it isn't for profit.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, I just got to say that I respect our system and we do a good job, but I just can't make that philosophy. But again, I'm not gonna. I know it's gonna pass. You guys do it, but I just something I can't do. I appreciate it, but I don't want it to ruin my support for the system. All right, thanks, brother.
Thank you.
He's killing it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
All right, we have one more. Okay, two more. Recommendation by Parks to cancel a board supervisor board meeting. Would you like to do that? That sounds good. Would you want to move it someplace?
This would be to cancel our regular meeting that would be here at the Government Center and instead have our meeting of February 12th at the City of Thousand Oaks City Hall. I think this will be a great opportunity. We haven't been there in over a decade.
I heard that.
And we have a nice opportunity to be at the Civic Arts Plaza, the City Hall there, and bring our government to the people and let them hear about what good things we're doing in Thousand Oaks as a county, and then most importantly hear from the residents there. So I would ask that I support the motion to have that meeting there. And looking at also having if you'd like to come tour the new clinic we have there, a healthcare clinic, and with our behavioral health department and then our healthcare agency, we would have that be part of the, I guess, Brown Act issue if we have more of a majority showing up there. So the day's events would be a tour and then to the City Hall for the board meeting.
Do we have
And
time?
also inviting the Thousand Oaks City Council too, if they'd like to join the tour, or anyone else.
Supervisor, do we have a time for this yet?
We're looking at, it's obviously an evening meeting, so it'll probably be around 6 p.m., but we'll get back to you and see what we have on the calendar for that.
I also heard that the city was trying to charge for that, but you guys worked it out, huh?
Well, we haven't worked it out. If the city does decide to charge the county to use its city hall, I have to come back with a board letter to request that authorization.
I thought
None of the
somebody
other cities have charged us, so maybe the Thousand Oaks won't charge us either.
I'd just like to make a request, as perhaps part of the motion. I'm fine with this recommendation. In fact, as I've already hit the second button in terms of doing this. I'd just like to point out that when we do this, if we could choose dates that are not either before or right after a date when we're going to be dark. This date is that we're going to be dark the next Tuesday, and I'm fine with it this time. But I think overall, these meetings when we go someplace else, or sometimes we don't have as full of an agenda, and we probably don't want to go 2 weeks in a row without having the ability to have a full agenda. So if when we go and take the show on the road, if we do it at a time when we have regular meetings,
We just don't have any meetings. There's no
before and
agenda.
after
That's
that,
good.
I think it would be
Good job
better.
there, Mr. Chair.
And then also, I think because we have some things, if we want to do some of those things, I thought it started to work out, the earlier we can have that meeting get started, we can still do the things that are specific to that community. We can schedule those to be at a time appropriate for people to get home from work and be able to attend. But if there are things that are specific to the county's agenda that may not be of that much interest to the community, if we can do those early, I think that would be helpful for staff also that's traveling from all around the country to go to all around the county to go to another one. So if at least if the board members agree with that idea that we have these things at a time when we have full board agendas before and after, the weeks before and after. I think that generally would be helpful.
This, I appreciate that, and this was chosen because there's nothing on, no one has booked anything on that agenda. It's an
Sure.
empty agenda at this point, so it looked like a good meeting to have. It's not packed or anything.
Absolutely fine with this one. I just think in general.
And that should be a priority, too, to see that you're not going off-site on something when we have a packed agenda.
Okay. Great. So anyway, if the maker of the motion is comfortable with that also, right, in terms for the future?
So you want to amend the motion to include an in the future from now
Yeah,
on?
and in the future, and it's not a hard, fast rule, it's just in the future if we can, it's just a sense of the board.
It's a good
that-
point.
Well,
that
to me,
helps.
the key is that you don't have an agenda that has things on it. So,
Yeah.
whether it's after dark or not after dark, it's what you have on your agenda.
But there's a tendency as you come up to when an item is, when we don't have a meeting, it's that week before or the week after that things start to really fill up, and they fill up late. So usually we plan these things way in advance, which is good. This one's out there way in advance. So,
But I would think that we also coordinate with CEO and the clerk of the board, so
Yeah,
it
this
should
was
be,
chosen by
I mean,
the
I
clerk,
appreciate the
too.
discussion, whether it needs to be at a
right, that's fine.
Part of the motion,
Part of the
right?
discussion, that's fine also. Right. Okay.
So I guess as the motion would be to make sure that we, aren't doing it on a meeting when we have a lot of items coming forward, and preferably not after a dark meeting.
That's right.
After or before. But,
After a dark meeting or before a dark meeting?
yeah, because at the meeting before you go dark is when staff may be trying to get a number of things covered.
Well, it's going to be at the discretion of the board anyway.
What's that? Oh, I thought I hit that thing multiple times. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. All right, so we have 40, I think it says 40? 41. 41. Okay, and I think that's Supervisor Bennett and Long's item, correct?
Okay. Thank you very much. We have item 41, is adoption of resolution calling for enactment of federal ban on assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition magazines. I think that everybody is very sensitive to the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting that took place out there. I believe that we are at the point where there is a sea change in this country in terms of the opportunity to reenact an assault weapons ban that used to be out there, and then it's been stalemated in terms of moving forward. By us doing this, I think we send the message that we agree that there has been. We help send the message that there has been a significant change in the public's attitude. The things that I would specifically like to point out is certainly been contacted by people, and a number of people who are saying guns don't kill people, people kill people. I think the more appropriate line would be mentally deranged people with assault weapons kill a lot more people than mentally deranged people without assault weapons. And I know it's a complex issue. This is not the only thing, but if you look at all of the other industrialized countries in the world, we have astronomically higher death by gun rates than anybody else. And we have the weakest gun control laws. That can't be just a coincidence. And the final anecdotal piece of evidence I would like to throw out there. Just recently in Great Britain, a mentally deranged person burst into a school, attacked children with a knife, wounded 20 children.
It's actually China.
What's that?
It was in China.
China. I'm sorry. Wounded 20 children. Didn't kill any of them. Right? They were, so whether you can control all the mentally deranged people or not, but to the extent that they come in armed with assault weapons, and you may talk about the high-powered criminals may know how to get these weapons, but mentally deranged people, if we can make it much more difficult for them, it's probably going to be much less likely that they end up with these weapons in their hands as we go forward. So, Supervisor Long?
And thank you. I certainly agreed with moving ahead to put this on our legislative platform in support of the proposal by Senator Feinstein. And there's no question that this resonated with everyone in this country. Not a partisan issue. It resonated with everyone, this atrocity at Sandy Hook. And it was a violence that just could not could not be one of those that 2 weeks from now you forget about it. You cannot, and we should not, and we should look at having that community dialogue. I appreciate that the STAR has stepped up to invite that dialogue and that conversation. And in my conversations with our behavioral health director and with law enforcement, and this one bill is not the panacea, but one bill can make a difference, no question. And it's not, if it does nothing more than to raise the level of dialogue, to have us look at all of our systems that interact on violence across the board in America, violence in our country. We're fortunate in this state. We have probably some of the strongest, and talking with the DA, some of the strongest gun enforcement and controls and laws of any state. And as you saw the article with former Governor Duke Majan, a very Republican governor, who the assault weapons ban was enacted in this state. And to be able to look at this as a step that says we have an opportunity to put a check and balance, to put, if you want to call it barriers, whatever the tool is that's going to improve the level of safety in our communities, particularly for our children, then we must have that conversation and take steps to do so. And our legislative platform is that place that we can express both the practical application of laws, but also the policy and philosophy, I think, of a community. And I certainly have heard from the community And I probably have, someone said to me, well, you're doing this for you or for the 3rd District? And I look at the community represented, and I feel it does speak to what the 3rd District would like us as a board and us as a county to take a stand on, to say, we've got to do something different. We've got to take some positions that will move us to be a safer community, a safer state, a safer nation for all. We cannot just let it be yesterday's news and just say, well, we've got those checks and balances in place, and there are people's rights, and you've all heard it. I mean, you don't have a right to yell fire in a theater. You do have to go through extensive training as a youngster to get that license to drive a vehicle. You do have to, all those things, and the loopholes that are already being addressed regarding, which we don't have in this state, the sale of weapons at gun shows. We don't have that in this state. But our community dialogue has to go beyond our county boundaries on this one, beyond our state, to that national uplifting of concern and voices and action that we can take that will progressively move us to safer country. So I certainly support this.
I also support it. I think it's important that we look at that. In fact, I had my grandkids this morning here, and when you see them, I had my own kids, but when you see the grandkids and the children, it's really important that we protect them. That Sandy Hook and Newtown, Connecticut, the act was really horrible. It's a tragic, horrible incident. And I know we've had many incidents, such as that terrible one here in our country. So I'm really troubled by this, personally, because I believe it's important that we protect our children, protect our teachers, to protect our community. And I hope that maybe our state and legislators take some action to curb this kind of violence. And this is what hopefully we're doing today. And I also believe that we have the Second Amendment in the Constitution that allows our citizens to keep and bear arms. But I also believe that our country, we need to look at reasonable approaches to this to happen. Maybe some individuals that are highly qualified to have those type of guns, maybe those individuals that should have those guns. Or maybe the type of bullets and the amount of bullets in the weapon and weapons should be looked at. I don't have all the answers, but I believe that we need to look at some type of legislation to control the type of bullets, the amount of bullets that a weapon can handle. And additionally, I think that we need to set up some more resources to make available to strengthen our mental health concerns with the individuals that handle this type of guns. How do we correct it? How do we help our mental legislators or health to work with individuals that have this type of guns that shouldn't have this type of guns? So I really support this that we submit this or put it as a legislative process for us to follow.
Yeah, I don't need a semi-automatic weapon to go hunting, so that, there, to me, there is a line drawn there with the First Amendment. But I do want to talk a little bit about, the concept of mentally deranged, as it was stated, people with access to guns. I think there are, this goes beyond that, and I can't imagine anyone who is sane that would do any kind of mass murder in our society. So you could just assume everybody is mentally deranged who's going to take a semi-automatic weapon and shoot people. But I think when we're talking about people with mental illness, there are people who have 5150s taken out, which means that they're either a danger to themselves or a danger to others. And that information needs to be known by law enforcement when someone's trying to get a gun. And it is possible that we don't have that link in the communication channel. And I think that is something we need to look at as a county, something that we can do. But as far as supporting this to ask the federal government to do what they can do, I'll support the motion.
Just might one more. And Supervisor, thank you. I did have some conversation with Melanie because of the concern of stigma for the mentally ill that we care much about, and we've made great progress both in this county and in the state with the benefit of the Mental Health Services Act and funds in the Mental Health Board, and to look to not set that back by drawing a connection that it's these acts of violence are all related to mental health. I think there's certainly a range of what's described as mental health, and I think that the opportunity, again, to have continued community conversation about this will be valuable. And I would hope the Mental Health Board might have some of that discussion. I would have to believe NAMI would. And if there's an opportunity to have a county-wide presence where we could bring in the good people who work together. Our law enforcement is so engaged with the mental health leadership and advocates, and we've taken steps to work with the community here and clearly feel that there's a value in working together. So I appreciate. I think there is concern that there's a stigma that's attached that all mentally ill people are violent, and that is clearly not what anyone is saying, trying to do, and certainly we know from experience here at the local level that we engage and support and advocate for the mental health of our citizens.
Would that be, Mr. Chair, part of the application process for somebody applying for a weapon? How?
Right.
What kind of background
Well,
checks?
that's something we should, I'd like to at least include in the motion, is to come back and let us know if there is that communication, at least people on the 5150s, that information is available to the Sheriff's Department when people are getting guns, registering.
Good.
Let me just say that no matter what we do here, anything we do, we're never going to take the pain away from those parents.
No.
They're dads and moms and brothers and sisters and grandparents, and I still have an 11-year-old in school, so I could at one point get that call. Mike's got a young one too. And so there's nothing we can do that's ever going to take that from them. But on the other side, I want to make sure that we don't run into, like the President's former Chief of Staff, Ron Manning said, let's don't let a good tragedy go to waste, and then we have certain groups trying to use this to further agendas either. I want to be careful with that, because the real issue is this whole mental issue we talked about. It's interesting. I went through and got some things on this, but if you look at some of the stuff that's gone on, and we don't want to disparage the mental ill, because I think that's wrong, but there is the idea at some point there's certain things we have to deal with, especially when we talk about some of the drugs some of these people are on. I mean, I was reading some of this stuff. It says, we're forgetting the key component of mental health. Non-diagnosis, proper diagnosis, that's important. But the need, when you look at some of the recent shootings that we deal with, mental health aspects, the Columbine shooters, he was on a medication called Luvox or whatever, and it says right there, the manufacturer had 4% developed mania, dangerous and violent mental derangement. So what are we doing understanding that we put people on a certain drug and then we maybe give them access to things they shouldn't get? That's important. The Colorado had a history of mental illness in the most recent attack. Connecticut had that same thing too. We have to protect. But you know what? When they say 4% on that drug, there's probably lots of people on that drug. And we don't see that whole 4% go out and do something wrong. So we don't want to say that everybody is, but everybody has a different reaction. So I want to be careful that we're going down the right path, because I'd like to make sure that what we're doing here, besides what going on federal, we can't influence the federal government what they're going to do. We can say, this is what we'd like to do. But what are we doing to risk our own families that we have out here that, I've got a child in school, you've got grandchildren, Mike's got a kid in school. What are we doing to make sure that our mental health department is dealing with some of those same kind of things that we could say, like you said, law enforcement understands. What can we do to deal with that stuff, to know what people are on? Not to disclose their identity or do something, but just to find a way to deal with it. And some of these drug makers to let them know that you're making drugs that really do affect people and affect people's lives. And we live in a very violent society in a sense that it really bothered me a little bit because I saw some of the actors go out there and say, we need gun control, gun control. You make your whole living on these violent movies that you put out. And that bothers the heck out of me. And the other thing is then we have this whole thing about some parents allow their kids to watch, play video games that are, shooting up and killing people. And these video games are so real that it's just, and they don't know anything by the time they're 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, and they're stuck in here and they don't have any relation. There's all this stuff that is more to it. The other side of this is when we talk about assault weapons. I'm not an assault weapon guy. I do hunt. But I also look at assault weapons. This last thing with the kids wasn't even done with assault weapons. The assault weapon didn't do it. It was pistols that did something like that. You can't ban that. And then you talk about a knife that was done. We just got to understand there's evil in the world, and we've got to deal with the issue of protecting ourselves from evil, and that's the number one thing government is here to do, I think, is protect that side of it. But what is really interesting to me is that I asked them to do some research. Is this mental illness issue, when you start to see how many things, people that were on drugs, people that have a record illness, this last kid that did that, he had done some issues, I guess, was having problems with his mom, mental health, maybe didn't get the kind of treatment. And I don't know how you deal with that. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with, in our own county, 800,000 people, how do you know who's got problems, who doesn't? I mean, you can't deal with that. So I just struggle with the idea that we want to say we want to take this way, do that. I look at Chicago. Chicago's got more gun laws than any place in the world, and it has got the highest rate of murder. And you look, and it's only 1/4 the size of New York, and New York's got half the murders. So do gun laws, do they really do it, or is it just the people? Now, I look at Chicago has a history, I think, for the last 100 years of pretty violence throughout that whole history. It's part of what goes on. So I still struggle with trying to push it. I understand where everybody's trying to do it. And again, at the end of the day, though, I just don't think that any parents that's lost their kid, I don't care if it's from a gun, an accident, or, like they say, I was reading that, blunt instruments cause more deaths than guns do. But it's just a struggle for all of it. And so I appreciate you. I can't agree with it, but I appreciate the people up at this board wanting to say, it's our responsibility to try to help and do something. So, well, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I've had a lot of calls from the 5th District on this, and maybe the application, when the people apply for a weapon, maybe there should be an application that says, have you done X, have you done Y? And maybe we need to have follow-up on that.
Maybe you do. I mean, the one kid who applied, he didn't even get a gun because he wasn't willing to wait the waiting period that Connecticut had, which was good to see. And,
but I think it's important that we do something, here in the local level, because the people see us directly, and they don't see the feds, they don't see Sacramento, but we need to provide answers for our constituency. And I think
I'm just saying it's just another one of the 14,000 gun laws or something we add to. I don't know. And I saw that there's been less. They banned assault weapons before, and when they let the ban go off, there's been less murders by assault weapons than there ever was. So statistics don't mean it all.
And then we have the copycats,
Supervisor Foy, if I could, number one, I appreciate the tone of your comments. You're saying you recognize we want to do something, you may be in a different spot. And the comments that I make are not designed to sort of say you're wrong, I'm right, or anything else. But I do want to make a few comments because I think they're just important to get out there for the public discussion. You mentioned Chicago, and Chicago has some of the highest rates of importation of illegal guns because the states all around them don't have the same strict gun control laws that the city of Chicago has. And so you see these big city mayors in particular in New York and Chicago saying they feel like they're just under siege, and their police departments are saying we need the gun control. But it's very hard to do gun control. That's why I'm not suggesting we do something specific here in Ventura County, because it would only apply in the unincorporated area, that kind of thing. We'd be preempted by state law, anyway, in terms of doing that. But a national ban does have an impact because you decrease the importation of the weapons. One, two, violent. I mean, all of the things that get cited in the debate out there, the violent video games, the mental illness, etc. All those things that get cited, they exist also in all of these other countries that have much lower death by gun rates, but much stronger. The access to the guns is just much more limited. And I think so every one of those things. I mean, they did a study of violent video games in Japan. The violent video games in Japan are just as violent as the games and used just as frequently in Japan as here. Yet 1/100th of the death by gun rates that we have here in the United States. And finally, I specifically chose the word mentally deranged because I didn't want to stigmatize mental illness. I think that the fact is, there's going to be an argument in each one of these cases about whether these people are mentally ill or not. I think almost everybody would say they're deranged in some way. And in fact, one of the definitions they have out there about psychotic, not necessarily being mentally ill, but being, I don't want to say psychotic, but psychopathic, is not being, and that's why I think it is important, and we don't want to. These shootings, in fact, I think, set back our efforts to try to destigmatize mental illness, and we don't want to do that. That's why I specifically use that. The psychopath is a completely different situation than mental illness overall, which is why I'm careful to use that term in terms of somebody who's deranged in such a way that takes them to that spot. May not fit, and certainly, all the people that fall in this category of mental illness I think that's a different category than what we're talking about in terms of these people that become the psychopathic shooters. Finally, I would say that identifying that we're willing to take this action, I think also identifies that we as a board would be willing, if our professionals, whether it's our sheriff, our mental health professionals, come up with other things. We're sort of signaling that we'd be willing to take other actions here at the local level if there are effective things that anybody could come up with. And it's one more reason why I think our support of this is the right thing for us to do. So with that, I'd go ahead and make the motion. And Supervisor.
Could I make a subsequent motion that we ask our behavioral health department, our sheriff's department, to let us know if there are any gaps in their ability to receive information on the 5150 patients and when they're applying for guns?
Second.
Who's going to know that? Who's going
To have law enforcement have the availability of the information.
Oh, okay. I thought you said
of
us.
people, and the 5150 again are people who are a danger to themselves or others.
Yeah.
If there are some resources that are needed to make sure that information gets there, we need to know that there's that gap.
All right. So we finished our first board meeting of the year. We're over lunch. We didn't even get complaints on this side over here at all about lunch. He was really good today.
That's because we have so much holiday.
Holiday. We're trying to get rid of some of that.
Supervisor Zaragoza, could you do a tutorial for
Yes.
us?
Yeah, Mike did this on purpose to me. So. All right, we'll finish. We'll be recessing in closed session, right? Yeah. No announcements?
No announcements.
No announcements. Okay, thanks.